All right, welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. We got a doozy for you. We're talking about the Stanley Cup Finals jersey drop. We got some signings for you, the NHL draft for 2024, and some key free agents to look out for the Kings to sign. Get in the chat, like and subscribe. Let's get hyped. Hopefully our future draft pick at 21 can be hoisting the cup like Dustin Brown right there. Thank you again for Azera for putting out that intro for us. Go check out all their music anywhere music is sold. Boys, how are we doing? Some excitement with the finals. We got a bunch of – they're just cramming all these award ceremonies, everything else back to back to back. A lot of hockey content to cover. How are we doing?
Man, I'm pumped. I feel like these last few days and I guess a couple weeks have been just like nonstop hockey, like insanity. I thought the final, the way it ended, I picked the Panthers in 5. I was hoping it would end a lot sooner, but I'm glad that we got the exciting end to the NHL season that we did. And now we get a turnaround. Like in 4 days, we get the draft. It's just it was so funny to me watching that game on Monday, just knowing that we got the draft like in 4 days. It's hilarious. And then free agency like right after that. But I'm pumped. Like this has been such a fun week for NHL. How you doing?
So to be clear, we're not talking about Italy's 98th minute game tire in the Euros to advance to the group stage. We're not talking about that, Randon.
No, come on.
Okay, my fault. My mistake. No.
We can talk about Pulisic and his
that was awesome.
That was a great goal.
We are going to be doing a 20-minute segment on how Japan beat the United States in under 18 football for some reason. I have no idea how that happened.
Okay.
But that'll be at the back end. We might not have time for that. But the Euro is going well. We'll see how that goes. Copa America happening now. I wanted to go to that game because that game was in Dallas. But
oh yeah, that's right.
There was about 90,000 seats for that event. They only sold like 50,000 tickets for 45,000. Yeah. Upper decks were like 175. And I'm like, why? Like it's so crazy. Like why not lower that? Have that thing packed and booming. So that's the only reason I didn't go. I was like, I'm not going to pay 175 for a game I barely even watch. Like it'd be cool to go see, but
yeah,
you know.
And that's the thing. They like the price. I did not mean to get us off on a soccer tangent, but that's fine with me.
It's the summer of soccer. It's the summer of soccer.
I love it. But like you don't like they're pricing out like the average. And like you said, I don't even know if you would consider yourself even an average fan, but like somebody that could be drawn into the event, they're just pricing out. It's just anyways. But no, there's a lot to be excited about. All joking aside, we'll get into the Kings and we'll get into their new logo. Well, new/old sort of new logo, the jerseys. So I'm fired up. This whole thing is going to be awesome. The next week's going to be awesome. Randon, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I did, this is my time of year. You guys know I'm the draft guy. I love deep diving. They've been trading away on my first round picks, so I haven't been able to do too much there. But off camera, I think we'll talk about it later. But I think I'm comfortable with probably about 8 to 10 guys. We'll get really into it. We each have our top 5s, and then we have our official pick based on our consensus rankings of who we would be comfortable with at 21. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a little bit mid to after, but I'm doing fantastic. I really love the draft. I love the suspense. If you listened to or read Russell's article regarding the strategy from Yannetti, they might be moving back. Some trades going on. They can trade Kaliev. They're making moves. They're inquiring about Getzel. They've put in inquiries about Natchez, which it seems like we're getting priced out of. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It just seems like a lot of stuff going on, and that the second you turn on Twitter or X, you could get some new news for the Kings, which is exciting because we've been watching everybody else have fun. Now it's time for us to have fun. So get in the chat, Please hit that like button on your way in, on your way out, anytime you can. Cy coming in with the first comment tonight. Good evening, fellas. Love the new jerseys. I love the outcome of the finals. We are about to get into that. Dan P. Hey, guys, just finished watching Russ on Locked On Kings. So, yeah, go check out Russ on Locked On Kings. He's been a semi-regular guest host over there. Leap coming in here with a, hey, boys, ACX419. Let's go, boys. Let's get it. Pumped for this pod. I'm pumped for this, too. So let's no longer delay. We're 40 strong in here. Let's get it going for this podcast. Stanley Cup champions, your Florida Panthers. Joe, how many tissue boxes did you go through with that outcome?
Hey, 0 tissue boxes. It was an awesome Game 7. It was an awesome series, drama filled. I tweeted it out. We got our money's worth. I was pulling for Edmonton, but as I said, I think Randon last week, I wasn't rooting against Florida. I just was pulling for McDavid and pulling for the Oilers, but so much to like about that Florida team, right? I mean, top to bottom, Zito, Paul Maurice. I'm a big Sam Reinhart guy. Barkov, just go down the list. It was a great series. And again, as I so often do out here, Western New York, the fact that there's so many ex-Sabres that are just winning cups left and right, immediately after leaving the Sabres, is just hilarious to me. And Reinhart, of all people, scores the game-winning goal. It was just awesome. But no, Florida's a great team. Nothing against that. Hopefully, I say hopefully. Like I said before, Randon, I want McDavid to get his cup because I don't want there to be a conversation when he retires and the whole but he didn't get a cup thing to take away from his legacy and how great he is. So hopefully one day he does get it. But great series, fun outcome, fun Game 7. Really, really cool. So stick taps to the Florida Panthers.
Man,
Russ,
I was going to say
it wasn't in 5, but it was in 7.
I was very excited about my Florida in 5 pick for a little while there.
I bet.
I will say, the 8-1 loss that they had in Game 4, that kind of was really nerve-wracking. I expected, Edmonton, we've seen, just even in the Kings series, when the Kings were up 3-2, the Oilers just turn it on. McDavid and Draisaitl, they can just turn it on whenever they're down. And that's kind of what they did. Even that one game when Draisaitl said, I haven't been playing my best, and all of a sudden he goes out and throws a ridiculous saucer pass for a goal, kind of remedies that situation. But then, Game 7, I went into it, I understood all the hype behind it. People were saying, this is one of the greatest, most important games in NHL history, all that behind going into a big Game 7. And I believed it, to be honest with you. I agreed.
The ratings were fantastic.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken,
exactly.
Right?
I mean, it was everything the NHL probably could have won in terms of ending an NHL season. I mean, you have a team like Edmonton Oilers with the best player in the world coming back from down 3-0, something that's only happened once before in the 1940.
Yep.
Going up against a Florida Panthers team that was there last year, who's trying to save themselves from national embarrassment. And I was just hoping for a great game. And to be honest with you, it didn't really, in a nutshell, if that game was just a regular season game, it probably wouldn't have been felt like a big game. But with all the ramifications behind the importance of that game, man, it was exhilarating. It was everything you could have wanted in a Game 7. I told somebody, everything and nothing was happening all at the same time. The amount of Florida Panthers, when they were up 2-1, when the Panthers were up 2-1, and it seemed like they were just icing the puck just to go down, get it out. We don't want anymore. Just get it out. And then you see Edmonton. Anytime Edmonton, Bouchard, or Ekholm, or anybody would take a shot, you'd see 3 or 4 Panthers players just sprawled out in front of Bobrovsky, and all the loose pucks that were just in front of in the crease, just bodies everywhere. I'm this is mayhem. This is everything you want. This no structure, nothing to a hockey game. Just sacrificing everything to put your name on the cup. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better end to the season. I just thought, to me personally, with everything that was involved and, like I said, all the ramifications behind it, I thought it was one of the best games of all time. It was just everything that I wanted to see, and I think that all hockey fans wanted to see. And I'm just so glad the ratings kind of showed that, because if it was just a no nonsense game where like maybe the Panthers had won the cup like in game 6 or something, the ratings probably wouldn't have reflected that. Like they wouldn't have really cared. It's a Florida team going up against a team from Canada and Edmonton. But the fact that you're able to get game 7 with all the importance behind it, the ratings like were so remarkable, like impressive. I think one of the highest rated games since the game 7 against Boston and the Blues, 2 American-based teams. So to see that and how it reflected a game that we kind of wanted and all got, man, fitting end to a fun NHL season.
Sorry, I'm messing with my new light. It's like I'm staring into the abyss over here. So
you're like McDavid. The lights got too bright in Game 7. You're like McDavid.
Yeah.
Right.
Except for I'm coming through with this hosting job here.
That's right.
So I was watching it at work a little bit. First period, Florida gets that really nice tip. I was like, that's kind of a skillful / lucky goal, right? Like, I mean, you get that awkward tip, but it was a very talented effort. And then Edmonton gets a goal right back, and I was like, Edmonton ain't going away. Like, this game is going to be quick. And then I even told you boys, I was like, I'm betting that McDavid gets a goal in the second period, and I put a little parlay together. But I got to give it to Florida. They buckled down. They got the huge snipe to put them ahead, and then they didn't really let the onslaught get to them. Like, everybody was willing to put their body in front of the puck, like you said. Everybody was willing to pay the price. Everybody was keep going there, and they kept dishing the puck out. Oh, okay, Edmonton's coming back. Let's get the puck. Let's dish it out. And it wasn't like it didn't feel like when the Kings get into that 1-3-1 trap where they just sit back. It felt like they were aggressively being defensive, if that makes sense. Like, and so I really thought that they played to their strengths. Hey, we're a defensive team. We're going to play defense. We're up 2-1. We're going to try to shoot some pucks and get it going there. But, I think I really think that the Florida played their game once they got up 2-1. They played their game and they got the job done.
I mean, you can just tell right off the bat the amount of physicality that the Panthers played with. That was something that we hadn't seen in games 4, 5, and 6. It was almost like they were all just kind of on their heels a lot more in those games. But in Game 7, they're like, hey, they just knew, hey, we don't care about the scoring chances right off the bat. We're just going to go out and try to establish some physicality. And that's exactly what they did. And Randon, like you're dead on. Like they played like not necessarily like a passive game, but a little bit more defensive style, especially when they got up 2-1. Because all the times that they were clearing the puck, they were sitting back a little bit, but they still had a player. Like whenever the Oilers had the puck behind their own net, there was always a Florida Panthers player standing right in front of Skinner, waiting for them, like not letting them break out. And we've seen the Kings, like when they play their structure and their 1-3-1, the Oilers are always holding the puck like near the blue line in their own zone, as opposed to where they were at against the Panthers behind the net. So I wonder, not to get too far ahead of myself, but like I wonder if that's something that maybe Hiller or something that the Kings adjust to when they play the Oilers. But yeah, just overall impressive game from the Panthers.
What do we think about McDavid winning the MVP and him not choosing to come out and accept the reward?
I mean, I think he deserved the Conn Smythe. If for the dude was like a historic run in the playoffs for what he did. You look at the points he put up and how dominant he was pretty much throughout. I know in the play, obviously he went a little quiet in game 6 and 7 from a production standpoint. But I still he's still. It's funny because there's a lot of people that say, well, it's not all about points, just because he led the playoffs in points. They say, well, he loaded up on this game or that game, but then those same people will say, well, where was he in game 6 and 7? Well, he was still dominating the play, right? The puck was in Florida's zone for the most part whenever he was on the ice. So he, just for whatever, credit to Florida, whether it was blocking shots or Bobrovsky made a couple of big saves. Forsling had a damn near game saving. Forsling and then Montour like on the same play. He deserved it. He was incredible. And also, I don't think there was any one player on Florida that was a standout. Like you could make a case for Bobrovsky up until they lost 3 straight. You could make a case, I'm sure, for Barkov. You could make a case for maybe Kachuk, although I don't think his final was fine. So I don't know. I just think that he was kind of a no-brainer for me, especially once it got to 7. Didn't matter if they won or lost. He was us. And I personally don't care if he came out to get it or whatnot. To be honest with you, that was probably the last thing on his mind. And he's in the locker room. His gear's probably half off. And, I guess unless somebody from the league stops him on the way back and says, hey, you won the Conn Smythe, you should, I don't know. I don't know what the situation or how that works.
Well, I don't know if you read the interview from Jean Sebastian. He finally recalled that moment and like what it was like going out there and taking the picture. He said it was just horrible. He's like, I was out there and
horrible.
And I was depressed. We just lost. And then you're asking me to stand and hold this trophy. He said, I brought the trophy back and I put it on the trainer's table. I didn't even bring it to the locker room. He goes, bringing that trophy in after a loss, like, yeah, where the guys' heads are at, like, it's just, so I don't blame him. I mean, obviously, they probably wanted the photos there, the NHL, but I mean, ESPN probably would have blown that shot anyways because they didn't get the cup being raised for the first time.
Has there ever been a Conn Smythe winner? There's no picture. Does that ever happen?
I mean, there's only been a couple that have actually won it when they've lost. So
yeah,
I can imagine.
Now that you mentioned that, Randon, about the pictures, the only picture of the Conn Smythe is with Gary Bettman at the table.
Right. And then I forget who the guy that did the Stanley Cup or is the curator of the Stanley Cup. He was carrying the Conn Smythe to the locker room, and he was like, "I don't know what to do with this." Like he was like looking around, and it was just awkward.
Yeah. The argument, or the discourse behind McDavid not coming out, why? There's exactly you just lost the biggest game of your life. And you want him to come out and accept some kind of trophy that he's probably never going to touch. He probably could care less about it. He just going to shoot off, and we'll probably never see a picture of him with it.
It's probably still in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. Get this away from me. There's no way he wanted to accept. Who was going to accept that? So that was fine. I don't know. I've always been one to say that a Conn Smythe or any kind of MVP or trophy, whatever, should go to a winning team or a player on the winning team. That's just my thought process behind it. I just think it's kind of weird that McDavid, understandably, he dominated play in Game 6 and 7 and was the best player on the ice. There's no argument behind that, but it is kind of funky to see him accept the MVP trophy when he didn't produce in Game 6 or 7. And so to see that was kind of But for me, I thought Bobrovsky should have deserved it. I think it's just better. Because I said earlier, McDavid's not going to touch it. He doesn't even want the trophy. Give it to the guy who I think deserved it more, in my opinion, and who's going to I don't know, not necessarily show it off, but who's going to inherit it and be congratulatory behind it and everything like that. I don't know. It just seems so weird and whatnot because McDavid, I'm with you, Joe. McDavid's going to win a cup where it's in Edmonton, LA, who knows, whatever. But he deserves to win a Conn Smythe trophy when that first cup happens. That's just my case. So for me, I just thought Bobrovsky should have won it. I thought it was a little funky to see McDavid get it. And what the hell are we doing, Jim Matheson? Why are you voting all three Oilers? Revoke that guy's credentials. Ridiculous. You need to I'm glad we have the transparency, but the fact that someone was voting all three Oilers to win the Conn Smythe and not one Florida Panthers player, that's ridiculous.
I did not see that. I didn't see this.
Yeah, he voted McDavid 1, I think Bouchard 2, and Skinner 3 or something like that.
No, it was Hyman 2, and then Bouchard 3.
Okay, yeah. Come on now. What are we doing?
I'll say the thing with McDavid, I would say, Russ, I generally agree with you that in most cases, the vast majority of cases, the winner of the Conn Smythe should probably go to somebody on the team that wins the cup.
Well, so so MVP in baseball, do they have to be a playoff team?
Yeah.
Does a player have to come from a playoff team, in your opinion?
I'm with that all the time.
I don't think so. If you're doing something historic, like J.S. Shiger, that Ducks team had no business being anywhere near that final.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a .945 save percentage. If somebody's doing that, and especially if you make it all the way to Game 7, where now you're talking a coin flip, then I got no problem with it. Or if you got somebody like McDavid, who had the second most points in NHL history, third most points in NHL history. Talking like when you're in the conversation with guys like Gretzky, you know what? That's a rare exception where, okay, maybe I agree, Russ. Like most of the time, I just think in these rare exceptions, and this was one of them. This was like a historic playoff. So I think in these incidents, when there is something that big, that historic, I just think that trumps it.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, second all time. I don't know if you know the historic words of Ricky Bobby, but if you're not first, you're last. So.
I've heard that actually.
I think it's interesting. Florida gets their first cup. The legend of will McDavid ever win one lives on, right? I mean, that's another one that he has to live with, and maybe he'll come back next year and they'll be right back in it, and they'll have the kind of the Florida Panthers type thing where they're,
he's gonna have like 200 points next year. We're totally screwed. It's gonna be like the McDavid wreaking havoc over the entire NHL, and it's just I'm watching the playoffs. I'm watching the final. I'm like thinking to myself, like, holy hell! Like, how did we let McDavid and Jack Eichel get in the same division? It's ridiculous. How did we let that happen? We're screwed.
We got another one, Celebrini coming in. There you go.
Right?
That's right.
Oh man.
I heard rumors that he had broken ribs, like for
Draisaitl. Was it Draisaitl
ribs? Okay.
At least a rib. I don't know if it was broken ribs or rib injury, something like that. McDavid, I think, was dealing with something. Now Black said, but I don't recall. But
oh man, you can just tell like toward the end of that game, like when it got down to like the final minutes, like the Oilers had
so gassed.
There was nothing in the tank.
So
like once you would have thought I thought McDavid, okay, we're gonna get him flying up the ice, and once I saw him dump the puck in, I'm like, oh yeah, it's over. There's no way. They have no legs.
Well, congratulations to the Florida Panthers and air 5 through the computer screen for me and Russ for picking the right teams. So let's switch it over to a little Kings news. A little jersey drop today, a little drip for the LA Kings. The logo dropped a couple of weeks ago or a week ago or so, and then the jerseys dropped today. What are your guys' overall impressions of it? Because to me, it seems like a little bit of a retread. I'm excited because it is better than the jerseys that we have. But man, I was hoping for the purple and gold, man. I mean, I maybe another 10. This new jerseys probably last about 10, 15 years. So maybe in 2035, we get the purple and gold official drop. But Russ, what do you think about the new jerseys? What do you think about Fanatics having the jersey thing? I mean, the big hullabaloo over there in the MLB. So kind of the jersey as a whole, what do you think?
I mean, I've always been partial to those 90s jerseys, especially the black ones. I think the white ones look just as good too. So for them to go back to that 90s era style, fantastic. Absolutely, like almost like 10 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 for me. Like I'm with you, Randon. Would have been a 10 out of 10 if they went with the form blue and gold. There's a couple tweaks I would have liked to see. Like I'm a huge fan of the numbers inside the striping on the sleeves that we've seen in the 90s era jerseys. And the stripe on the bottom on the black jersey, it's like massive. Like it's like ridiculously too big. So
you could land a plane at LAX on that stripe. So
right. I don't know if it's something they can just shrink. It's like such a small fix, it seems like. And I saw somebody say maybe it's because like they don't have any other colors anywhere else, so they have to have some white, and it kind of mixes up or mixes well a little bit better with the white jersey to have that black stripe kind of bigger. But I mean, overall, great, excellent style, love it. Can't be any worse than what they were wearing beforehand. I'm so glad the home plate logo is gone. One of the worst in franchise history. Love the logo that they have now. Love the crown inside the logo. So the font is just something you just have to get used to. But overall, like one of my favorite logos, if not my favorite logo in Kings history. I just think they got it. They hit a home run with this one. So I love them.
Cy coming in here with already a tinfoil hat thing here. QB, the only non-lettered player in the jersey drop video, 8-year deal, lock it in. I like that tinfoil hat there, Cy. I like where you're thinking there, my man. Joe, what do you think about the jersey?
I agree with a lot of Russ said. So, the logo drop, which wasn't a big surprise. I think we were generally all kind of like figuring this was coming, and there was some minor tweaks to the logo, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same logo as the Gretzky era, which at first I was like, okay, that's fine. We've seen it, like they've worn those, the chrome domes for a while now, for a few years anyway. So like it wasn't, but so it was like, okay, cool. And then it was the next day where I'm just kind of scrolling, usual scrolling on Twitter, and I happened to see like something with the Kings, and it was the new / old logo. I was like, oh shit, this is way better. Like just seeing it, not expecting it, I was like, this is so much better than the home plate logo. And I've never liked the home plate logo. It was bad from the jump. It was a bad third jersey. It was a bad logo switch. Everything about it was bad. The crown inside it was bad. The whole thing was bad.
It's the only logo I've known as a fan. So
yeah, and it sucks because it's the only logo they've won in, and it's just terrible. I mean, like Russ said, it's probably the worst logo. I don't even think it's close, Russ. Like even those like late 90s, early 2000s era, which were kind of odd. They tried to mix in the black, silver, and purple together.
With the line with the sunglasses?
That was fine. Like the Shield logo. Yeah, I know you love the Shield.
Nordstrom era.
Yeah. And that other crown, like I thought that crown is way better. Like I don't know what they were thinking with the home plate logo, to be honest with you. So it just the next day though, Randon, as I was scrolling, I saw that, I'm like, then I got excited because I'm like, holy crap, it's real. Like that home plate logo was gone, and we got these, and then I'm like you, Russ, I'm like, we've seen the whites, for the most part, we've seen the whites for the most part. I'm like, holy crap, the blacks are going to look incredible, and they did not disappoint. Setting aside the California sized freaking stripes on the bottom of these jerseys, which I mean, hey, I guess we just got to trust that they've tested these and they've looked at all angles and TV purposes and whatnot to say that, yeah, this works, but obviously it looks a little bizarre, but love it. I think they did an incredible job. I'm a purple and gold guy myself, but I think it's a perfect opportunity to have that as your regular alternate whenever they switch to the, I don't know when this will happen, or if and when they go change their third jerseys. I think it makes a lot of sense to have either the purple or the gold for the third jersey with the old school crown. I think it's perfect. I love it. So I think it's great. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on the black matte helmets instead of, first of all, I hate the chrome dome, so I'm perfectly fine not having any chrome domes as the regular.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, I'm all set with those.
They grew on me.
No, they never grew on me.
Oh,
but the matte. So the matte. What do you think about the matte, fellas?
I like it because the club, the gloves are matte black, right? You can't have shiny gloves or anything like that. I mean, okay. So as long as the black on the jersey is kind of like more of a stale matte, I think it looks cool.
I think it'll be good.
I'm gonna put matte black on my truck, so I mean it's gonna work out.
There you go. Then the Canucks, don't the Canucks have matte helmets?
I don't know if did they do it for because they wore the their 90s for like
for the skate one, right?
Yeah,
I think they have.
I just can't remember though how that. I remember watching it to remember how it looked. Maybe that means it's perfectly fine if there was no memory of it, So
yeah, I love the matte.
I think I agree. Your thought about the numbers inside the stripe like they used to have. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that's a TV thing these days. I don't know if that's
maybe, yeah.
I don't know, but no, like you said, I think they did a great job. I mean, I know it's maybe a little lame to non-Kings fans where it's like, fellas, all they did was just get their old jerseys back. Like, what is everybody celebrating? But it is really cool, and there is some unique kind of tweaks and differences to the jerseys and stuff like that. As they tie in certain parts of the history and whatnot. So I like it. I think it's going to look fantastic. Bye home plate logo.
Todd coming in here. Crown on the center ice. Book it. I agree with this. I think they should just do the new crown on the ice instead of because like where the logo splits, where that red line goes through,
It's weird.
it makes it looks weird. It like cuts up the end a little bit. I think they should just do the crown on the center ice. And that's it. What do you guys think?
Totally agree. I mean,
Got no
the crown, like an alternate jersey, because they're not having an alternate jersey this year. I've heard that they're going to have one the year after, in 2025,
Has to be
2026. Has to. It's like a no-brainer, right? You have the crown crest
Yep.
in purple and gold. Easy. Done.
It has to be.
Did it already.
Unless they're going to go like off the radar somehow, but I think they've kind of done that a few times. There's no need. I just keep it.
Yeah, it's so
You know it's gonna
simple.
work.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody wants it. It'd be
Yeah.
a total win. You have the 90s era jerseys now with the new look, whatever jerseys, and then you get to mix in an alternate jersey with the form blue and gold. Everybody's happy. That's like slam dunk, right?
If you're not happy with that, just go away.
Yeah.
The people aren't happy because they're $425 a piece.
Well, that's
Yeah, that's a little different.
Most people can pay half their rent. Well, maybe
Yeah.
not in LA, but
Good Lord.
but that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that thinks that Anaheim knocked it out of the park too? I love
They
all
did.
the orange.
Good call. Good call. I think they did a great job.
I mean, I liked them more because I think like the jerseys for the Kings are kind of like a retread. Like I've seen the logo before, and yeah, obviously the logo for the Ducks, you've seen it in the movies, but the way they just like went like full bore into the orange, like no other jersey is going to look like that in the NHL.
No.
Like I think it looks great.
Can I ask you guys this? Because you're California guys. I'm not. I read a little bit about what the owner said. He's like, you know what? Screw all this other stuff. We are Orange County. We are Anaheim. We are not LA. We are our own area. We're going to lean into that, and we're leaning into the orange. Like, is that a thing? Like, is that going to resonate with Orange County and Anaheim? You think that, you know, because everybody's talking now about the Angels. I'm like, that's like the opposite of what the Angels are doing. The Angels are not.
Nobody cares about the Angels right now.
Oh, so like.
But I mean, people like when you ask my uncle where he's from, he'll say Orange County. He won't say LA. So like, it's kind of like a destination. Like it's a part of LA. They kind of consider themselves outside of LA, like they're their own hub. So
okay,
like I think it's good.
I mean, I don't.
The Sharks jerseys are nice with all the teal. Like the teal explodes off that. Like
I love
the orange.
I love it because for a few reasons. One, it's different. Two, they had the worst jersey and logo and color scheme in probably the history of the goddamn freaking sport. It was so bad. Because they went from a great one. Like those JS Jaguar jerseys were awesome. Those back in the day. These were terrible.
Which JS Jaguar jerseys?
So now that I say that, Russ.
Which one?
You're
not talking about like the plum ones, are you?
The one with maybe I'm wrong with Jaguar. Didn't he wear this logo?
Oh yeah. Like so, just the teal and purple and teal, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's what it.
Because there was like a plum one that they did that's kind of, I don't know what to say, it's similar to the Kings, but same kind of striping and whatnot, and it was just like Anaheim Ducks right here.
Yeah, that was horrible. That was horrible. No, that one was horrible. Right.
Okay. Just like the original retro '90s jersey, the Korea.
Yeah. So the logo is incredible. It's a great logo. And that's why I'm assuming the orange is a thing for like Orange County, Anaheim, blah, blah, blah. So that, and again, when I read the owners kind of part of the reasoning behind it, I'm like, you know what? I think that's awesome. I think that's a great job. I have no idea if it resonates with actual Anaheim, but for me, somebody on the outside reading that, I'm like, full marks.
When Houston had they changed their color scheme to the bright orange and everything like that, from like the pinstripe, the almost like the burnt color. Yeah. They were the worst team in the league, over 115 losses, but they had the most revenue because of jersey sales, like brand new, bright colors, ready to go, differentiating stuff. Like it's the same thing with the Marlins. Like they have really cool, like bright orange and teal. Like you're getting to, I think, especially a lot of the young crowd gets, like, you know, for fashion type thing, it like bright colors kind of help with that. And I don't know. I think it's just fantastic. One, it's nostalgic with the face logo, the Mighty Duck type thing. And then you're getting to be like nobody else in I mean, that's a lot of orange. And I think it's going to resonate. And I think it might look good on camera. Like the fact that you're going to, one, like it's just like them skating around. And I think the numbers pop too, because it's not like you have the bright orange and then the white and then you have the orange. Like, so where even on camera, on TV, you're going to be able to see the numbers as a fan. Because sometimes like it's hard when like in the scouting, I was watching the Swedish players, and sometimes that number, even the yellow number on a blue canvas, it was hard to kind of pick up the numbers because the numbers are small. I like the font that they use for the numbers and the way it pops. I think it really works well.
Yep.
So I live in Orange County. The color orange is not a thing in Orange County. So there's never been a thing. People don't wear orange. I mean, there's orange, like they call it Orange County because there used to be orange groves, like literally right. People like older people that grew up around here will tell you, oh, there used to be orange groves down the 57 freeway. You know, like that's like the big thing why it's called Orange County. But nobody wears orange just because it's Orange County. But I'll say this, like I like that they're just kind of diving into that because people will rock orange now because that's what the Ducks are affiliated with. So I know somebody mentioned in the chat, I think it was Anthony, how like maybe you would have liked to see like black pants instead of orange. But like if you're gonna go in for it, just go for it, right? If you're gonna be orange, just be orange. So I grew up, that was the logo. Like I went to one of the first ever Ducks games out here. So that's always been the logo that I've appreciated as my hatred for all things Ducks. But so to see them bring that back, total win. It's just great to see both teams now go from bottom 5 in terms of overall jersey kits to now be top 5 in terms of overall jersey kits. Like that last like Duck like paw print or whatever, like it was just god awful,
horrible.
Like totally horrible. The way we talked about the home plate logo for the Kings, the Ducks one was even worse. So,
way worse.
No brainer to go back to where they're at, and we'll see. I'm curious to see how it looks on the ice with the full kit. So we'll see.
And the center ice is going to be banging with that face mask logo. So
what about, speaking of center ice, what about the Chevy logo? Dual Chevy logos?
No.
You don't like the dual logos?
I like it.
No,
teams don't really do that anymore, huh?
No, that was a thing back in the day, though.
But one big logo. Get the crown.
Well, like you said, so I'm with you, Randon. I totally agree. I think they should go with the old school crown, the crown that's in the logo. Mm-hmm. I think they should do that. But I think it's unique having the dual because you don't see it anymore. It used to be all the time. A lot of teams had the dual. Montreal used to have it. Boston used to have it. All these teams used to have it. Kings used to have it. I'm assuming there's reasons they got away from it, but I think that would look pretty cool too. But I would rather have that than like the big Chevy logo.
Yeah. No on the Chevy logo.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. They put the crown at the top of the locker room, so maybe that's a hint of what they're going to do because
hopefully.
Yeah.
Crown's so sick. They
nailed
the crown. They nailed the crown.
Exactly.
You know what is nailing it when you're betting is when you bet with DraftKings. So DraftKings right here is our sponsor. The chase for the Stanley Cup, well, it's over. In the action, I hope you bet all your action at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's hot as it can be on the ice because the action keeps going with off-season bets. You can get same draft parlays, live betting as the draft goes on, and odds for next season already. Let's pull up some of these odds right now. Odds for the Kings to win the Stanley Cup is plus 2,200. The NHL draft, you can bet who's going to get drafted as second, third, fourth, and fifth pick. Why not parlay that and see if you can put together some money? Props for our particular for the draft. Total American players drafted in the first round, over under 4.5. Total defensemen, over under 11.5. If you want to have some fun, drinking some beers, getting going, and playing some DraftKings on draft night, that's where you need to be. And if you're new to DraftKings, all you have to do is check this out. New customers just bet $5 to get 150 in bonus bets instantly. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers. And get 150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is already yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in West Virginia, that is www.1800gambler.net. Or in New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY, which is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for people with gambling. Call 877-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill and Casino Resort in Kansas. 21 age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Use dkng.co/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, responsible gambling resources, copyright for the NHL, all rights reserved. Boys, what do you think? What do you think of some of those prop bets? I know we're not supposed to give gambling advice, but over a lot of defensemen come off the board. Over under 11.5. What do you think?
First of all, real quick, Lieb coming in with 7-10, 7 out of 10 segue. Absolutely. That's way under. Your transition into that ad read, Randon, was way better than a 7 out of 10. I disagree with Lieb.
That's some Jim Matheson voting right there.
Yeah. I appreciate Lieb. Lieb's just hard on me. He's on here every episode. He's seen me. He's seen me put some hat tricks together.
He expects greatness.
I know, but I appreciate that, Lieb. I appreciate you keeping me honest and always striving to be a better host.
It sounds like there's a lot of defensemen, Randon. I'll ask you that question. I mean, I would say under, but you got a better pulse on this, I would imagine, than I would. Yeah, I don't know.
Defensemen always climb up the draft boards because everybody's looking for that top defenseman, right? So you have the Salayev, you have the guy that's from Michigan State, which is his name is hard to pronounce. You have a couple other guys making their way up, Yakimchuk. Then you have, one of the guys that we're talking about, Solberg, moving his way up almost 30 spots. That's 6 guys right there, and that's in the top 15 to 20. Where it gets tough is there's a lot of good centers and wings in the back half of the first round. So does a player want to take that center, or do they want to get a chance? We talked about you and I, Joe, talked about Aaron Hikiharju, I think is how you pronounce his last name, from Finland, who was supposed to be a top first round pick, got injured. Now he's in that 25 to 35 range, really short guy, offensively minded. Will he take a jump up? You had EJ Emery in the draft, which was a darling as far as the combine. Will he get pushed up? I've seen him high as now as 16 in the drafts for a shutdown defenseman. Wow. So I really think that there could be. I know we're not supposed to give betting advice, but if I were to throw that in there, I'd probably take the over on 11. Everybody's looking for that top D. It's easier to find wings and stuff like that. So Kiviharju, yeah, there we go. Carson McNutt. It has to be the over. He's saying Cole Hudson, Aaron, Kiviharju will steal at the end of the round. So I usually at 30 something picks, that's about 5%. I think it's a good chance that you hit the over on that. So get in there and make your bets. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do a parlay with DraftKings on Friday night, see how that works out for the top 5 picks. And the over-under on the hockey royalty pick, which will be coming in later on. But before we get to that, we got to get into the signings here. So the Kings signed 2 players since the last podcast. Alex Turcotte, 3-year deal at $775. And Samuel Fagemo signing the league minimum for the 24-25 season. What do you guys think about these 2 deals? What do they mean for the Kings? Joe, I'm going to start with you on this one.
No brainers. Turcotte is at $775 at league minimum. Basically, there's no risk to that. His is a 3-year deal. I think there's a really good opportunity if he can stay healthy that he becomes one of those players that we talk about quite a bit, who you need these guys on like league minimum contracts to pop. Like, it's fine to have Trevor Lewis on a league. No, it's not. Like, you're going to have Trevor Lewis on a league minimum contract, but there's no upside there.
I was like, whoa, Joe.
Let me stop myself. There's no upside there. There's upside when you're talking about a guy like Alex Turcotte and what he can do, play up and down the lineup. He can play multiple positions. Like, that's interesting to me when you have a guy like that on that type of contract. And Fagemo, obviously, we've seen him be a really impactful AHL scorer. I don't know if it translates, but for a league minimum contract, and if what's the worst that happens, to lose him on waivers? It happened last year. I'm perfectly fine with this because maybe he's a guy that if he doesn't earn a job out of camp, if he goes down to the minors, he can come up and he can fill a role if need be. I would also add in there Akil Thomas, Randon, was also signed. Again, just like Turcotte, minimum deal. I think his is a 2-year deal, I want to say. Again, can play the wing, can play center, can play special teams. Those are the guys that can make an impact on your roster and your depth positions, and then as needed, sprinkle into your higher part of the lineup if there's injury or whatnot. That's the stuff that can really buy you a little bit of some space, and it can give you some flexibility, and it can really, you can start to see some impact and some guys that surprise you a little bit and in the depth part of your lineup. So I think they're great.
Russ, I think there's two parts of each of these contracts that I really find interesting. One is the term for Turcotte, 3 years, and two is the amount of AHL money for Fagemo. I believe it's $345,000. It's pretty high for an AHL contract. What does that say for you on both those aspects?
So the Alex Turcotte deal, it surprised me, I will say. The fact that he signed for 3 years, I know it probably means he's looking for a little bit more stability in terms of the amount of injuries that he's sustained in the past, and you don't know what the future is going to hold for him. But I still see an NHL player here. So the fact that he was willing to sign a 3-year deal at the league minimum, I mean, total win. Like, and with Fagemo, I think that high. So I'll say this. I think that high AHL salary is to prevent him to want to go from Sweden to play. Because there was an article that came out that I just came across like the other day, in an interview he did with some Swedish reporter or whatnot. He had expressed his want to go to Sweden if he didn't end up getting a roster spot or a chance in the NHL. Like, he even mentioned the team. I can't think of the team offhand, but he said, if I don't get a shot in the NHL, I'm going to Sweden. So I think that high salary for the AHL for him is just to keep him here, to be like, hey, I know like there's probably not a shot for you on the NHL lineup or in the Kings lineup, because if you look, like, Rob Blake's mentioned Brian Clark, Alex Turcotte, and Akil Thomas like 5 times already since the season ended. So they're going to make the lineup. There's no doubt about that. But he hasn't once mentioned Samuel Fagemo. He may have, but the fact that I just can't remember it says that I don't expect Fagemo to make the lineup. So would be surprised, but expecting him to start the season in Ontario and make some good change while he's down there, as opposed to just making like $80,000 to $100,000 that any other AHL player probably makes down there. So great move for both. Low risk, like Joe said, high ceiling. Love it. And I think if Turcotte Turcotte's deal, especially if he can turn out to be anything close to what everybody expected him to be when they drafted him 5th overall, massive win there. So I think Rob Blake did good on both of these deals here.
Yeah, I'd agree there. It's interesting that you say the Fagemo thing, because we often talk about prospects and draft picks from Russia having to inch them over because they're getting paid millions of dollars to play over there, to take them away from their family. And it's not like Fagemo hasn't been, in the United States culture for a while to where he's not used to it. But, to go back home, play by your family, get paid more money than what you're getting paid here. He's already broken the NHL lineup, so he's lived his dream of playing in the NHL. Maybe he's just ready to be more comfortable in his home country. And so that high amount, I think you're spot on with that, kind of gets him off that, hey, well, this is what I want. I want to play in the NHL or I want to leave. So, I need the money. I mean, obviously living in Southern California, making 75, 80 grand ain't a lot, as people can know. So a lot of the AHL guys live together. They all bunk together as pro athletes, which is weird to kind of say. Going to the Turcotte deal, I think this is probably my favorite deal in a while that Rob Blake has signed, because I still believe in Turcotte the talent. I think he can play anywhere in the lineup. On the wing, I think he could be a 3rd or 4th line center in a pinch. And so I think he'll make the team out of camp. And we talked about this on multiple episodes. And my favorite thing as a couch GM or a tinfoil hat is getting value from contracts, right? So if anybody's listening or everybody who is listening, it's not the money itself, it's the value you're getting for the money. Well, the money couldn't be any lower at 775. So any NHL value you're getting, that consistent value, if Turcotte plays for the LA Kings for 82 games at 775, that's value. If he puts a strong season together to where, hey, he's a 30-point producer or 25, 30, 35-point producer on the bottom six, even more value. If he blossoms in year 2 or 3 to where he's a 45, 50-point player in the middle six, fantastic value. And you're talking about the apex of the value could be season 3. If you're talking about that slow burn up there to where maybe he's a consistent middle six player at that point, right? The Byfield's contract's going to kick in. You're looking at in 3 years. I mean, even if he signs a bridge deal, then Byfield's going to need a new contract. Brant Clark probably needs a new contract, already has a new contract by that time. This is going to be one of the biggest value signings. You can get value from people that make good money. Kempe's contract value, right? So I think that you could have nothing but upside with this. If Turcotte does nothing but just play in the NHL, it's still a value. Yep. But if he can exceed expectations, Kings are going to need those types of contracts, especially if we sign a guy like Jake Getzel, which we're going to get to in the next segment. So I really like that contract from a value standpoint for LA.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned like Kempe, because that's a great shout too, because it's not just the cheap guys that give you value, right? Like Kempe is outperforming his contract. Last year, Trevor Moore outperformed his contract. Look at even Florida. Matthew Tkachuk makes $9.5 million. That's a steal for the Florida Panthers. That's a $12-13 million player.
It was a steal. Forsling.
Forsling's a steal at 6 and change or whatever. So like that's the thing is like you can get you're exactly right, Randon. It's about finding that value, and that's why when you talk about contracts and stuff, where like I totally understand like the idea of a bridge deal. Like I understand why Kempe was signed to what he was, but as things go, and we don't know. Who knows? Maybe they just simply couldn't have. Maybe I don't know. 7x7 wasn't available for Kempe. Maybe that was just off the board. But like hypothetically, if something like that was there where you're paying a little bit more in the front, but you don't got to worry about in like right now, 2 years from now, that's a double-digit $1 million player if he keeps on this trajectory. Where you could have bought yourself a few years down the road if you would sign. But again, that's a lot of hypotheticals there. But you're right. I think the both of them. I think Akil Thomas too is in this discussion of like, where's the risk here at the term, the number, it's all gravy. Like I think that's it's almost like the goaltending last year. Only I think there's even more upside with these type of forwards that they've got with. You could like Turcotte and Akil Thomas have the skill to play in your top 6. I don't know if that's what the Kings want, right? But I think they could if they're healthy enough. So I think that's great, and I think they have an opportunity to get a lot of value out of those two and Alex Laferriere too. I think that there's a lot of potential there for guys on cheap deals to give some production.
What's very good production right here is this super chat from Al Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in here with a $30 holler.
Appreciate you, Al.
We were going to go into the draft after this, but money dictates the topics here, and we're going to get into the free agent and trade segment here. We'll leave the draft to the last. Al Smith, $30 holler. Thank you so much. Now that PLD is history, do you think Blake goes after another top end forward this year? Sorry, not directly a draft. So I don't know if he's sorry that it's not directly draft talk, but does he go after a top forward in free agency? Or in trade? So we've talked about Natchez, right? And we've talked about Jake Getzel's the darling of free agency as far as the winger. There's a couple other guys out there like Patrick Laine that have been talked about. There's probably some guys that we haven't really been whistled about that people are calling. So Joe and I talked about it last week. I think it's the highest priority of the offseason to get a top end forward to play for this team. Russ, you weren't here last week. What is your opinion on the question here from Al Smith, and how important is it to you to get a top end top end forward for this group.
Yeah, I think you hit it spot on. I think it's the number one priority for Rob Blake this year. The way that they've talked about Quentin Byfield, I think that Dubois deal not only was a way to get out from underneath that contract, but to figure out a way to move Quentin Byfield back to center ice. And if that's the case, they have some room to work with. There's some cap space there. And it all, I guess, maybe depends on what Quentin Byfield's deal is, whether it's a bridge or long-term. But even then, there's still a lot of room to work with here after they cleared about $3 million from the Dubois-Kemper swap. So, yeah, like I agree. I think it's a forward that Rob Blake is going to target. And I guess we're just going to lean into the free agency topics. The one that is now being connected to the Kings is Jake Gensel, which I think that this all started with Elliot Friedman mentioning it on the 32 Thoughts podcast on Tuesday. And the way he mentioned it, it reminded me exactly of the time when he mentioned the Dubois rumors last year. He kind of just dropped the nugget saying like, oh, like, don't be surprised if the Kings are in there, when everyone was like, the Kings don't have money to do that. Like, what do you mean the Kings are going to be there? They already have a center. Like, what's the deal with Dubois here? And so it's kind of the same thing now. When you hear Jake Gensel being connected to LA, everyone's like, Kings don't have the cap space to do that. Gensel's going to get like $9 million. Like, well, how is that going to happen? But he's still like, it's the same thing. And Friedman also mentioned, like, don't be surprised if teams you don't think have cap space to make it happen are able to get this done. So if that's the case, that he's pretty much sounds like he's talking about the Kings right there. And whether or not, like, you think Jake Gensel's the right target that the Kings should go after, especially with the cap hit he's probably going to get, I mean, you're still talking about a legitimate goal scorer in the NHL that the Kings desperately probably need at this moment, especially with Quentin Byfield moving to the middle. Like, my immediate thought was if they were able to sign him, and you can give me a line of Kevin Fiala, Quentin Byfield, and Jake Gensel, oh man, that sounds perfect. Exactly what they need. Like, you have a playmaker in Kaliev, you have your do-it-all center in Quentin Byfield, and you have your legit goal scorer in Jake Gensel on the other side. Love it. I just wonder whether or not, I don't think it will be, I just hope that this doesn't turn out to be another Dubois situation, because wingers, I think, and free agents, I guess, all over, can be kind of crapshoots, really. You don't really find too much value, like you've talked about, Randon, in free agency. Those are players that are expecting to they're trying to get their bag. They've reached that unrestricted free agency moment for the first time in their career, some of them, and they're looking to get paid. So Jake Gensel is the number one player right now, probably on a lot of people's free agent targets and free agent boards. And if Rob Blake is able to swing that, I think there's going to be a lot more confidence built from the fan base after some of the PL debacle that I named it this past year. So it'll be interesting.
I thank you, Al Smith, as always. I would say two things. One, yes, they have to go after an impact forward. They absolutely need an impact forward. I think that's probably, for me, it's still item number 2 that they need to address, but it is like they need to address it. Like they have to get an impact top 6 forward. And I know that's kind of a vague statement, impact, right? That can go a lot of different ways, and what player defines impact. The only thing that scares me about Gensel is that guy's going to get a 7-year term. It's going to be 7. It's going to be over 9. That's going to take him till 35, 36. I can still see him being a capable player at that age. So the cap should rise. So I always get a little nervous with, Russ, I almost always hate the term on deals for guys that are at his age. Same with Sam Reinhart, who, by the way, Sam Reinhart is an unrestricted free agent. That's not insignificant. And he's actually right-handed, which creative right-handed player, something the Kings don't have in their top 6. So to answer the question, yes, Al, I absolutely do think that they will go after a top end forward. What is your definition? And this is an open question to the chat or to you guys. Is top end forward in a free agency? Is it only Reinhart and Gensel, or do you consider Toffoli or Marchessault impact forwards? if you're looking at a trade, does line A count? Does Natchez count? So, like I say, impact, but all of those guys probably make the Kings better, but at various degrees. So how do you kind of define that? I guess Gensel would be an impact for me. Natchez is an impact for me. Reinhart would be an impact for me, but I think I get nervous when we're talking 7-year deals for guys that are like 29 years old. That does give me a little bit of trepidation, but that's, if you're talking free agent impact players, that's what it is.
I mean, impact for me is a top 6 player on this team, with no doubt, top 6 player, right?
So Tyler Toffoli, does he check that box for you? Jeff Skinner, does Jeff Skinner check that box for you?
No, I think Jeff Skinner's washed.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, but Tyler Toffoli is an impact player. Is he as high of an impact player as somebody else? But he would legitimately be in our top 6 consistently.
Agreed.
Right, and they need a scorer. They need a pure scorer. I think. Like,
well, that is Jeff Skinner, by the way. Just saying.
I know, but I don't know. Maybe it's just I get the heebie-jeebies when thinking about him. But I don't know. I think Tyler Toffoli would be an impact guy. Would make an impact on this team in a way that this team doesn't have. Right, like they don't have a sniper besides Kempe. Right, so adding another one, and I think Kempe is more well-rounded than people think. You know, you saw it based on last year. I think having a shooter that's just a pure shooter and is able to play, you know, I think that's the way they go too. I mean, or if a play driver, they can get another play driver on that top line, because Kopitar is a consistent player. He's not a play driver. You got Kempe, who's a play driver, but more of a sniper. If they can get a guy that can kind of accommodate both play styles, I think that can make that work there. But you know, like a Nikolai Ehlers, right? I mean, there's room, and there's another one where Roger McGroarty is being Rucker is being paired with Ehlers for a super trade. So there's lots of talk around there. I think that it is the number one thing there. I really don't have like the right answer. I don't think there is a right answer. I think there's a lot of wrong answers out there. Like I think Line is a wrong answer for this team. But if all three of us, if the team were to make an Ehlers trade or a signing for Getzel or a signing for, you know, you said Reinhart, right, is the free agent?
Yep.
You know, and any of those players, Toffoli, I think would be fine. I think depending on the term for Toffoli, but for everybody else, if they're going out and trying to make an impact signing, I think as a fan, you got to be excited about it. I think any of those players don't have the off the ice baggage that PLD did for a lot of fans. I know both you guys were excited when it came out and you understood why they did it. Hey, we're going out and making a big move. Mm-hmm. So if the Kings go out and do that again, and it's a player that a lot of people can get behind and can make more of an impact year one, like Getzel might not be a value for his contract, but as long as he performs like a $9 million player or $9.5 million, whatever he's going to get paid, then who gives an F, right? Like he's putting up a point per game. Kings don't have that kind of player outside of Fiala. So like that for me is like, okay, great. Like, could you imagine Fiala and Getzel on the same line together? Could you imagine, you know, Getzel with two sniping, like Getzel and Kempe sniping together on the same, like all the countless combinations that they can go with? I think that the scoring there, and like you said, with Reinhart as well, you know, a right-hand shot, there's a lot of options. And I think it's necessary for the Kings. Do you guys believe it's necessary for Rob Blake's career to make a splash signing be a successful signing?
Absolutely. I think he needs to save his tenure. I mean, this year probably could be the last year if they aren't successful in the playoffs. So he has to do whatever. I'm sure he's trying to do whatever he can to improve his team. And like signing an impact forward, at least a scoring forward, that's like you said, Randon, like somebody's going to immediately jump into the top 6 and produce. Yeah, that's something they need to find this offseason. That's like no question about it. You can't go into this season with LaFerriere or Keel Thomas as much as I think. Like I wouldn't be surprised if Keel Thomas started on the first line because that's just I'm high on him. But even then, you have to have scoring somewhere. You have to have established scoring somewhere, and that's why like the Gensel topic like intrigues me. I'm intrigued.
The other part of this is so PL did not provide the impact that he was brought in to provide. But let's remember the Kings thought they needed an impact forward to their top six. I guess never mind the fact that they didn't play him in their top six, but they brought in this impact piece and it didn't work. Well, now they still have to bring in that impact piece. They have to fill that because they did identify a need. They need to identify that top end player. Again, could be any of the names we mentioned, could be a player that we haven't mentioned that they're in talks with. Obviously, that's obviously possible too. And then play him accordingly. Now, a player that his name was brought up a couple of months ago, actually, when I was doing I wrote about goalies a while back, potential goalies, and I was looking at Gustafsson in Minnesota, and in the same article of Gustafsson, it was oh my god, Russo. I'm totally drawing a blank. Yeah, so Russo, the writer.
Okay.
I'm totally drawing a blank on his first name. I don't know how I'm drawing a blank on his first name. Mike Russo? Anyways,
Mike Russo,
covered
yeah.
Minnesota
for
the Athletic. Marco Rossi is somebody, I don't know that they're shopping him, but I've seen two people that I consider credible, the beat writer for the Athletic for Minnesota being one of them, saying that there's a non-zero chance that Marco Rossi is dealt this offseason. Not a guarantee, but talk about a guy that checks a lot of boxes for the Kings in terms of an impact top six forward who's young. That would be a good one too. Now, obviously, there's going to be some sort of a cost to that, but that's another one too that's interesting. And there's a trade history there between those two teams, so sometimes that matters. So, listen, all this to say, absolutely, they need an impact forward. I love Gensel. I love Reinhart. I'm admittedly a little nervous about giving 7-year deals to either of those guys, fully acknowledging that, you know what, they deserve it. They should get it. But, is there a way elsewhere to find that player? And we'll see.
Let me ask you guys this. Let's play. Let's play a game here. You can choose to have.
Would you like to play a game?
Yeah. Would you rather have Jake Gensel 6-7 years, $9 million per year, or would you rather have Tyler Toffoli, or they're not the same player, and there's an age difference here, a Tyler Toffoli or like a Jake DeBrusk for like 4 or 5 years at like $5-6 million?
I think if
give me Gensel, because if you're talking about 5 or 6 versus 9,
agreed,
and they're all 30-year-old players, I'd rather take.
I think he's 26, 27, so he's younger. But I mean,
I think if you had said like 2 to 3 years, or maybe cheaper on the money, Russ, I'd maybe lean like a Toffoli. But if you're talking where it's that, just give me Gensel at that point. Yeah. And again, like that's a big deal. Like again, money's gonna have to go out. It's a $9 million deal, but they need an impact forward. The question here from Al Smith: do you think he goes after a top end forward? Yes, I do. Yes, I think the answer is definitively yes.
Well, the reason I think they can make this happen, I mean, look at the amount of young players that are going to be in the lineup on like league low deals. You'll have Brant Clark on his entry level contract. Jordan Spence is going to be paid like under $2 million per year, probably going to start on the right side. Alex Turcotte, Alex Ferrier, Akil Thomas, all those players are on league minimum deals, entry level deals. So you have cap space to work with. I mean, even in the goaltending position, like we'll talk about like Kemper being that like kind of an albatross deal at like over $5 million, but still you're only committed just over $6 million to 2 goaltenders. I mean, you look around the league, Jack Campbell's getting paid by Edmonton still, and he's making $5 million per year, and he's not even on the team. So they're saving money in a lot of spots. And I'm with you. Like, if you're trying to decide whether you want to sign Toffoli or DeBrusk compared to just going all in to a player like Jake Gensel, you go all into a player like Jake Gensel. And the thing that separates, I feel like, Gensel from those two players is his playoff performance. You look at his playoff stats. I have it up right here. He has like, let me bring it up. He has 67 points in 69 playoff games. we're looking for playoff production. If you're a Kings team that's trying to make it past the first round, Jake Gensel is going to provide that. He's shown the capability to perform when the games matter. So I think that's where he's starting to make his money because, I mean, there was a lot of question marks. I was a little concerned about whether his production would continue once he got traded to Carolina because now he's away from Crosby. He's not playing with a player that's going to be looking to set him up all the time. But he still was able to produce for Carolina, had 9 points in the 11 games that they played. So that's, I mean, I'm with you. Like, if you're going to go all in to try to bring in an impact scorer, go ahead and do that and just go all in with a Jake Gensel.
Like, I could see it'd either be like a Gensel for me or like two, like $3 to $4 million players. Like, give me, maybe Victor Arvidsson and Perron, like, and make it like the depth better, or you have the high end guy. Joe and I were talking about before the pod, before you got on, Russ. Like, it almost seems like if they went with a Gensel, it'd be like a stars and scrubs type of roster that the Rams went with, right? They paid all these elite guys, and then they just have a bunch of guys on the roster making no money. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I mean, there's like 4 or 5 people that are going to be getting paid under $1 million, to where maybe they're going for a different strategy. Like all they talked about in the PLD trade and the identity of the Kings is we want 4 waves of forwards. We want 4 waves. We want them to get equal ice time. Well, that never happened. Outside of a couple games, like the fourth line still got 10 minutes, or there was always one line, whether it was a fourth line or third line, got 10 minutes or 11 minutes. Well, maybe now they'll have the first 2 lines getting 18, 19 minutes apiece, and the other 2 lines will be just like almost every other hockey team. And you depend on your elite players to make elite plays. Maybe they're going to go, in a different route, not throwing Fiala on the third line with rookies, right?
You want to hang with these teams. You want to hang with Vegas. You want to hang with Edmonton, Colorado, because I don't think any of those teams are going anywhere. You need big time guys. You need impact players. And I don't think the Kings have enough of them. So they have 2 significant needs that both need to be filled if they think they're going to make a run. And impact forward is one of them.
I mean, if you can have your top 2 lines be filled with Kempe, Kopitar, Byfield, Fiala, and a Gensel, that's 5 of 6 players.
Brandon, listen to Russ. Listen to Russ thinking Byfield's going to be 2C. Listen to Russ.
I love it. Love
it.
It.
That's cute.
I'm so naive, right? I'm just.
Russ, don't do this to yourself. Don't do it. Guys. Don't do it.
Be nice. Come on.
You know what's going to happen.
Jim Hiller, since he took over, has shown that he's willing to play Byfield a ton of minutes. So I'll hold out hope that he'll start off in the top 6, or maybe we get like a Leon Draisaitl situation where he just kind of moves up to the top line. Right?
I would be on board with that. I would like that. Yes.
You know what else you would like us to talk about? D-Man. And Lieb coming in here with $9.99 because you're so fine. If you guys could choose one, Brady Shea or Oliver Shillington, or is there another option? Joe, you're the D-Man expert. Where are you going with this one?
Joe's. I already know where Joe's going. Well, actually, I don't know.
I think this depends because what are they doing at forward? Because I think they have 2 impact needs. One of them is a forward. The biggest need is lefty. I think Oliver Shillington has a healthy Oliver Shillington. I think can have a breakout season this year. I think you can, at least Evolving Hockey projects him like on a 1-year deal. I think it's like $2 million was the most common or the most likely scenario that they projected. I think a 3 or 4-year deal was about $3 or $4 million. That's a guy that can exceed. Talk about value, Randon. Those numbers could be steals. I genuinely think they could be getting a guy in Shillington on a deal of he'd be the cheapest left D on the roster and NHL caliber lefty on the roster, and he would be arguably the best one. Like, I think Shillington's that good, and I think there's an opportunity if he's back, he played, he's fully healthy, that there's a real opportunity for him to be a legit option. So I would say, like, if you can spend more for the forward, and then you have that type of a player in Shillington, if he does become available, and I'm holding my breath every day that I wake up and as I get ready to go to bed, I check the Twitter before bed just to make sure that Calgary sign him yet. No, good. I think, and then flip it around. Like if you're going to go for like a David Perron or a Tyler Toffoli, then maybe Brady Shea is the answer. Like I love those are my definite top two lead from a free agent standpoint. So obviously, if you talk trade, other things open up there. I've got other ideas or not ideas necessarily, but other guys I'm interested in trade for sure. But from a free agent standpoint, I think the values with Shillington. So I'll lean that. But like if you're going to cheap on forward, then I got no problem with Brady Shea. The problem there is like while there's inexpensive guys with Clark and Spence, you know, Gavrikov makes almost $6 million and Shea's going to probably get that. So I don't know. I think that maybe that becomes a little tricky if Gavrikov's still around, but I couldn't be higher on Shillington. I would love it if he ends up in Los Angeles. I think there's real opportunity there for value.
Oh, well, I was going to say, you guys been playing our game? You like
my
game?
Let's play the game.
So Shillington and Gensel, or Shea and Toffoli?
Shillington and Gensel. Like
Shillington and Gensel. Okay.
I can't say it. I almost didn't even let you give me the second option.
No. Randon.
How I view Joe when he thinks about getting a puck moving left-handed shot defenseman is like Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's like trying to plan out and all those yarns are going in different direction. That's how I kind of view Joe.
I mean, England's got to find ice time somewhere, Joe. So you're gonna have to figure out how to give away.
Ontario's got a pretty nice sheet.
So
I'm just gonna tell you, Joe, right now, Joe. I'd be very surprised if they signed a left shot defenseman. I'd be
Me
very,
too.
very surprised.
So here's the thing. I'm doing what you're doing with Byfield, talking about him as a 2C. Me talking about all these options at lefty and lefty as a whole and all this stuff. I don't think the Kings think that lefty is a problem in the slightest. Like I
agree.
I really don't, and that's really scary. Like, how can you think? I've said it enough. Move on. Get me away from. Don't let me. Randon. Real quick. Actually, no, because I see Holden comes in. What do you think about trading for a guy like Ryan Johnson from Buffalo? So when we talk about trades, Ryan Johnson from Buffalo is very high on my list. I think Buffalo, they're absolutely going to add a right shot D. Like Matt Roy could end up in Buffalo. Brett Pesce could end up in Buffalo. Somebody like that. I think that's the type of D man that Buffalo needs. And again, we've talked about they've got Dahlin, they've got Power, they've got Bowen Byram. If you add in like a Matt Roy, say there's four right there. I haven't even mentioned Matthias Samuelsson. There's five. Henry Jokiharju is still under contract. Of those six, four of them are left-handed. Ryan Johnson is also left-handed, and he's not one of the six that I just mentioned. Are they going to play? Maybe they'll play five left shot D for all I know. You know, maybe Jokiharju doesn't make it and they play Ryan Johnson on the third pair as a left shot D. So yes, I absolutely think if there's a trade target, Ryan Johnson or any of those. I mean, I don't think they're going to trade Power, obviously. I don't think they're going to trade Byram. They just got him. So I don't think they're going to trade Samuelsson either after they sign him to a deal. And I think they like him. So Johnson maybe is the odd man out. And he'd be really high on my list, Holden, as somebody that's a trade target. He'd be up there, absolutely.
What else would you have to pair with Arthur Kaliev to get Dahlin? What do you think that costs?
Well, I was going to ask. I thought you were going this way. Do you think like a Kaliev for Ryan Johnson trade is sufficient?
I don't, because I just would be surprised, because I think Buffalo, they're looking for like the Kings, like they're looking for Martin Necas, right? They're looking for an impact forward, and they have Arthur Kalievs. Like they've got a slew of young forwards. Victor Olofsson, they're not even going to bring back. He's going to be gone. Look at what they've had in the minors with Isak Rosen, and Yuri Kulik had a great season in Rochester. He could be NHL ready. So I don't know that Kaliev really fits a need. I mean, I'd love it if he did, and they want to do that. I'm all ears, but I think that they're probably looking for something more. Now, what about this? As I think of this, Russ, you got my wheels spinning. let's say they're going to go out and get Jake Gensel. That's $9 million. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have to shed a little money somewhere to make him fit.
I see where you're going.
Does Trevor Moore for Ryan Johnson? Buffalo gets a veteran impact middle six forward. We shed the Kings, not we, the Kings shed a little bit of money, but fill a need.
Yeah, I mean, it works for me.
I don't know.
I mean,
I
Yeah,
don't
if
know.
you're able to sign Gensel,
Like that's in a hypothetical. If Gensel, if you get that $9 million guy, Trevor
it's
Moore,
weird though because like I've brought up the Trevor Moore trade talk just because he's probably the only Kings forward that doesn't have a no movement clause or no trade clause, whatever. And so it just makes a lot of sense if you are trying to add impact pieces that we've talked about, like Gensel, whatever. The more I think about it, like I'm like people, we write it off like Trevor. We write off Trevor Moore's season like, oh, that's never going to happen again. Like, and I'm guilty of it. We were all probably guilty of it. But I'm like, what if it does? Like, what if he continues on this trajectory? Would it surprise anybody?
No. I think when he signed that deal, we talked on this show, and I told, because Randon, I know, was a little unsure. I said, listen, there's enough under the hood here that he's going to pop. Like, I don't know that he'll consistently be a 50, 60 point guy, but there's going to be a season where he does that. Now, he did it.
I don't know how he does it on the third line with the no. He's not going to get those minutes.
Touche. See? So
he doesn't get PP one time either.
That's the thing is it's listen, I had the bold prediction. I'll bring that up every now and then that he's going to score 30, and he scored 30 last year.
You bring it up every show, Joe. Come on.
But
I
still bring up that I was in on Kempe before everybody was on Kempe. So.
As you should. Now I'll say like once he wasn't getting PP one time, and I knew that going in, but I'm like, it's bold, and that's part of the reason it was bold. Like, man, he's gonna have to score at 5-on-5. But I loved his 5-on-5 metrics. I love the stuff that he did under the hood. So I like the player. I guess where I'm going is like, if you are bringing in a Gensel, this is the hypothetical we're throwing out there. If you're bringing in a Gensel, you probably got to find money somewhere. Now, I would rather it be somebody else. Like, I would rather move Gavrikov if they could. But to your point, he's on a no move clause. Moore doesn't. So that's all I'm doing there is the Sabres have a need. The Kings have a need. The Kings could save a little bit of money, and maybe they bank on Byfield's production getting that much more. If he starts to drive his line a little bit more, they've got some young forwards that they're going to incorporate a little bit more, that maybe there's something there. Like, I don't want to trade Trevor Moore, but just kind of playing out the scenario as we go through it,
because I mean, Trevor Moore, like, okay, if he doesn't score 30 goals ever again, but is a consistent 20-goal scorer at even strength, like pretty much like he was this past year? I don't know how many power play goals did he have.
Couldn't have been many. I'll look it up, Russ, but it couldn't have been
many, right? Because
couldn't have been
the power play time. But I mean, even if he scores 20 plus goals at $4.2 million, that sounds like value to me on the third line. So it's like, the more I think about it, like the more I talk myself out of like talking about Trevor Moore. He scored 2 power play goals.
No, I was at second line.
Okay, sorry, second line.
No, you're right though. You're right. It's just, I think when we talk about trying to make money work, you're trying to find like, how do you make money work? And as you are wise to bring up, he makes a little bit of money, and he doesn't have a no movement clause, and he's coming off a career year. So when you put all those things together, 25 of his goals were at 5-on-5.
It had to be among the highest on the team, right?
The
highest?
Nobody else had 20 at 5-on-5.
Yeah, I think I might just start squashing this trade Trevor Moore.
Well, but I don't think you're out there like, say, trade Trevor Moore.
No. I mean,
this is so
inner thoughts.
Yeah, like it like I get it. Like it's solely for making money work. And to even more, Russ, 27 goals at even strength. So now you're talking 3-on-3, 4-on-4. So yeah, I want to say, how many power play goals did he actually score?
There's one more guy I want to get to, and Carson brought it up here, and I think this might be an interesting one and more of an underrated trade. Carson McNitt comes in here. What do you think about Kaliev and a future second for Rutger McGroarty? So I think Rutger is interesting here because I think he's NHL ready. Played 2 years at Michigan. First year as a freshman was a point per game player. Last year for Michigan he had 16 goals, 36 assists for 52 points in 36 games. So would Kaliev in a second do it? Would Kaliev in a future first do it? So Kings future assets for a guy who's young, cost controlled, and maybe could give you middle six value in the forward position. Would that be something you guys are interested in?
So Kaliev in a second for McGroarty is
a slam dunk. But would you do Kaliev in a future first?
I mean, I would. Winnipeg probably says no. Yeah, I think Winnipeg gets a better deal. They definitely will get a better deal somewhere else for Gordy. He's probably looked at as one of the better prospects, not one of the better forward prospects, not in the NHL right now. And
yeah,
I think the conversation with McGroarty and maybe the Kings would have to start with the first round pick this year and probably like Jordan Spence at least. I mean, you're talking about a play. They're going to be asking for a lot. I mean, the Ducks traded Jamie Drysdale, who's a 4th overall pick, who I think is a pretty decent player in himself and can be a legitimate top 4 defenseman for Cutter Gauthier last year, who had never played an NHL game before. And Drysdale had been in the league for a couple years already. So, the McGroarty's they're going to have suitors. I mean, he could probably net like a top 15 pick by a team. So, if the Kings are going to be involved, they're going to have to start. The conversation is going to have to at least start with the first rounder either this year or next year, and then a player like Jordan Spence or somebody.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm in on it. Not that I have anything against the player. It's just I don't know where the fit is because there's another thing. Like he hasn't played in the NHL, right? It's not like he's a known commodity. You know, at least when you're looking at the Kings for their young guys coming up, you kind of at least have an idea of what you could potentially get, at least in terms of how they play and how they looked at the NHL level. With did they fit in? Like, did they look like they were NHL ready when they're talking about LaFerriere and Turcotte and Akil Thomas, and maybe even to a lesser degree Samuel Fagemo.
Turcotte was never a point per game player at Wisconsin.
Not point, but like he looked like he fit in the NHL. You know, and I just don't. I'm not saying McGroarty won't. He very well might. It's just I don't know. I think it. I don't know if it necessarily.
You leave yourself with a lot of question marks in the lineup. A lot of young question marks in the lineup.
If you were to tell me, oh well, I guess. Well, now that I think about it, like, I mean, Kaliev's the trade for Kaliev. I can't imagine he's bringing anything back.
No.
You know, I think maybe if he
look what Dellandrea got from Dallas, and he was a first-round pick.
Yeah,
he got a 3rd or 4th.
If Kaliev gets dealt for like a 3rd, I think they would do that. So I guess to that point, like the 21st and Kaliev for McGroarty, yeah, why wouldn't you do it? Because I think that's better than a 3rd and whatever you're going to get at 21. Chances are. So I would be on board with that. To your point, Russ, I just don't know that Winnipeg is. So, any other free agents that jump out to anybody?
One name I've heard
we haven't mentioned.
One name I've heard actually connected to the Kings is Max Domi.
Interesting.
I've heard that the Kings are actively looking for veteran, gritty type players to add to the forward lineup. And one name that was told to me was Max Domi.
Okay.
And it makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of Kings fans maybe want to move away or move on from Blake Lizotte, even though they're appreciative. I think all Kings fans can say they're very appreciative of what Lizotte has done. He's a huge fan favorite. It's just maybe they're looking for a little bit of an upgrade there at that position. And speaking specifically at the fourth line center position. Byfield's not playing fourth line center, right?
Well,
okay. I'm just making sure before we go on this tangent, but
we hope not.
but I mean, you add a player like Max Domi to that position, who I thought had a really good year for Toronto, pretty solid in the playoffs. Was playing everywhere in the lineup. Was even on a first line center, I believe, or first line wing with Matthews for a while. So if they're able to add a player like Domi, I think there's that Bergevin connection too with Montreal on the fourth line. That seems like a perfect fit to me. I'm just curious how that money would work coming off a pretty solid year for Domi.
So he's a free agent. Yeah. His at least per evolving hockey, the most common is a 3x4.6,
which is pretty high.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, certainly for a fourth line player, right? That would be high. You'd be playing him in your like a third line type of role. So I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. It's just, where do you play him? Like, what is, I think that's the question.
I think if the Kings try to sign him, you go long term with a player like that. How old is Domi?
28, I want to say 29.
29. You sign him for like 5 years at like 3. 5 by 3.
Evolving Hockey has 5-year deal at a 5.4.
5.4
for 5 years. That's what they project, and they've actually nailed like to the penny a couple of these recently. Yeah, they're not far off. And like I said, I don't mind Domi as like a third line player, but I'm trying to think is that, to your kind of point, Russ, is 4.4 and change, is that pushing it? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm genuinely asking. I don't have a strong opinion on that.
Yeah, that's like if you're out on Gensel and you can sign like Domi, Toffoli, and like a Chillington, that seems like a pretty good haul at free agency. I mean, you add a scoring, I guess, impact forward in the top 6 and Toffoli, DeBrus, whatever. You add some quality talent to the bottom 6 and Domi, then you upgrade your left side.
Yep,
I think a lot of people would sign up for that.
I concur.
You know how you upgrade your summertime? With Manscaped. So Manscaped is our new sponsor here at Hockey Royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce the smooth sack summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed those pubes to bum. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season the smoothest yet. Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with an exclusive offer. Get 20% off, plus free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code THPN. Summertime, and the trimming is easy. I don't know about you boys, but I want to make sure that I'm ready to go downstairs for the summertime. Pool time, ready to go. You don't have time to think about what's going on underneath the shorts. So Manscaped keeps me going every single time. Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra has everything you need to prepare for summertime bod. Every man knows how scary it can be when going for the close shave below the belt. That's why I trust Manscaped for all my sensitive areas. Inside this package, you will find the star of the show, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. That's the 5th generation trimmer with 2 interchangeable next-gen skin-safe blade heads, a standard for one of those taking a little bit off the top with a new foil blade to go super smooth as your heart desires. We also have dual LED spotlights provide contrast on multiple skin tones, 3-length setting, combs, and did I mention the trimmer is waterproof? Beach, lake, shower, razor will devour the strongest pubes. Now that you have the perfect haircut, use Manscaped Liquid Formation to keep that freshness. Even in the hottest summer barbecues, the Crop Soother is an aftershave lotion, crop preserver, anti-chafe, ball deodorant. One touch to your sack and you never go back. Manscaped even threw 2 free gifts in with their Performance 5.0 package. That's some Manscaped boxers and a Shed travel bag. More wet products, say no more. Manscaped's new Buff Bundle is all you need to keep the summer heat a breeze. This bundle includes their signature silicone scrubber and body wash. So ditch your nasty loofah and go grab a taste of this freshness. Go get this 20% off plus free shipping with code THPN at manscaped.com. That's code THPN, 20% off plus free shipping free shipping at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. It's time to get on board or get left behind.
Excellent, sir.
Well done.
Joe, did you make it? Did you make that through without laughing this time?
It's good stuff.
That's good stuff.
Oh,
Lead
I mentioned so.
Lead gives me a 9 out of 10. There we go.
There you go. The lead meter, 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I just sent you guys. Did you guys see the video of Roberto Luongo eating spaghetti out of the Stanley Cup?
Incredible.
Love it.
Hey,
That's the thing. Like the Panthers, like I feel like the Oilers are going to be back there. They'll be back. Like some of these Panthers guys who have been around, like Maurice and Luongo, and I mean, I know that they're obviously not players, but like who've been around the league for so long, for them to finally get their due. See, it's so cool to see. Yes. That Maurice, the speech, or no, it wasn't really a speech, but the interview he gave afterwards, I think it was with Sportsnet, when he like looked in the camera and was like talking to his dad. He said, "Dad, you're going to be on the Stanley Cup with your heroes, Beliveau, Richard, Maurice." I was like, dude, that's awesome. That was so cool. So happy for the guy.
Agreed.
I love how the Kachuk is just like dumping full Stanley Cup portions of beer on people. I love it. And it took us diving into the ocean. Yeah. Let's switch it over. Let's switch some topics here. We're getting into the draft. So let me switch the screen here.
While you're doing that, Randon, Sai said, Joe, you got a Euros winner prediction. I like the draw for England. They're on the weak side of we're in the weak side of the bracket. They got I like their bracket. Like they're not in the bracket with France or Germany or Spain or Belgium or like all those teams are on the other side of the bracket. So I think their path to get to the end is they may have to go through the Italians. This isn't the same Italy of the past though, so they should be able to do that. But I think England could make a run.
All right, so we're getting into 6 new prospects today. So if you haven't heard a prospect that you're looking for or interested in, go back and listen to our previous episodes. But we got 6 to talk about. Then we have our each individual rankings, and then my co-hosts here don't even know who the Hockey Royalty official pick is because the rankings are going to be cumulative. We're going to have one solid pick. I'll give a little runner up there. First player we're coming in here, kind of a late charge to the to the pick here is Leo Saline Wallenius, probably top name for there. We call him the Lion, but he plays for the Vaxo Lakers hockey club. Had 42 points in 43 games. In the playoffs, he had 3 points in 5 games. This is the epitome of what Joe's looking for in a defenseman. So Joe, I'll give you the leeway here with what you saw from Leo Saline.
Yeah, no, you said it. Like he's a lot of what I like at this spot. From a defenseman, and it's great that he's left-handed. Not that I care so much about the immediate need, obviously organizational need, but this is exactly the type of player that the Kings are looking for in the organization. He's very high on my list of players that I would be on board with. Like, listen, we're talking about a range where there's so many guys, and I'd be lying if I had and wouldn't be honest if I had like a strong feeling that I'm going to go to bat for anyone. But this is a player. He's a decent sized body. He's not small. Like you said, it's on here at 6 foot 183. I'm sure he'll grow. He'll add more weight to his body. He's not small at 6 foot. He skates really well, moves the puck well. I like the way he's able to jump into the play. I'm just a fan of his game as a defenseman, good skating defenseman. So again, there's 2 now that we've talked about of left shot defensemen that are both going to be in my personal top 5 of like wish list, I guess, if you will, at 21. So definitely a player that I'm a fan of.
A little foreshadowing there, Russ. What did you see for Wallenius and why is he a good choice at 21?
I think for the Kings, he fits a need in terms of left shot. He's somebody that the Kings don't have in the system right now, in my opinion. The name is great, so that helps. We can corner the market on the Wallenius with Sammy and Wallenius, or Wallenius and Wallenius. So there's that. But like Joe said, like everything that I've read and seen, Like when I read probably I think it was Scott Wheeler said probably the best skater in the draft in terms of defensemen. I was like, perfect. That seems like something that the Kings haven't really looked at in the past, and he's left-handed. I mean, you look at some of the stats. I mean, 9 goals in 28 games in the all U18s in international play for Sweden. Great, love it. I mean, 6 foot. I mean, people say he's on the smaller side, but even 6 foot 180, that doesn't seem small to me. On the left shot defenseman, if you're able to skate as well as he is, so perfect player, like Joe said. In my personal top 5 rankings, just to kind of tease out a little bit more. So would love the pick.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have already hit it, but I mean, Scott Wheeler said his first sentence is, I like this kid. And excellent skater. I think he's probably the best side-to-side skater, walking the blue line defenseman in this draft, if not one or two. I think he has cleverness when you look at the way that he plays pucks, gets into space, jumps in. He's not out of place when he jumps in because he has the skating mobility to get back and play some good defense. He was relied to play on big minutes. He also played with another defenseman we're going to be talking about a little bit later. But I think he's always involved in the game. He knows when to go north-south and east-west, got really good hands, great offensive instincts. And I think for a prospect pool that we have, we have Dvorak, that big style, the left-handed shot D, and we don't really have anybody else on that left side. We have some obviously guys like Brant Clark coming in on the NHL level, and then if you look at the prospect pool on the right side, you have Matthew from last year and a couple other guys, but the prospect pool on the D core has gotten pretty slim pickings, and so I don't believe in drafting for need. But I also think he could be best player available at 21. And if it hits a need at the same time, that's an extra bonus. I think he's one of the top ceilings from an offensive standpoint. There's a lot of great offensive defensemen in there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to blossom into easily a top 4 defenseman and run a power play. So I really like what I've seen from Wallenius here, and he's made some jumps off my board and made my top 5 a lot more difficult going into scouting this week's players that we're talking about.
Scott Wheeler will also rank like best skaters, best shot, best hands, all that stuff. And Salim Wallenius comes in at number 11 among all players in the draft, not just defensemen. He comes in at 11th overall. So a lot to like about him.
Next guy we're getting into here is going to be Jet Luchenko. He plays for the OHL, Guelph Storm, center, 5'11", 187, right shot there for you, Joe. And so, he's a type of guy that is going to be a very active centerman. He had 20 goals, 54 points, or 74 points in 68 games, 3 points in 4 games for the Guelph Storm. And was also a point-per-game player in the U18s for the World Junior Championships for Team Canada. I really like this kid, and I'll let you guys talk about what you saw on the ice, but I'll talk about what I saw in multiple interviews. Guy wants to be known for being a reliable player. He wants to be known for being a good teammate. He comes in there and makes all these smart plays, wants to study the game. I think he's the type of guy who's going to – you can be confident that he's going to take that next step every single season that he's on the ice. You're going to see him get better and better and better and make that right and make those right decisions. 5'11", 187. So not exactly big, but not exactly small. Nice little size there. Russ, I know you really liked him when we talked about it in the side chats. What did you see from Jet Luchenko that made you kind of open your eyes a little bit when you're watching the tape?
Seems like he's a great teammate, is from everything I've read and seen. He won the William Hanley Trophy as Ontario Hockey League's most sportsmanlike player this past season. So that right there, I mean, that speaks Kings. That is Kings written all over it. You look at all the players they've drafted in the past, they always go for those leadership. They always look for that leadership type quality in players. I mean, most of the players that they draft have worn a letter or in the past with their junior teams or whatnot. And Luchenko fits that mold. I'm not sure. I don't think he wore a letter for the Guelph Storm, but I mean, he just seems like a great leader, and he's able to produce. I mean, 74 points in 68 games. I know it's the OHL, but even then, that's nothing to sniff at. So, I love the player, and like you said, Randon, right shot. But even then, I think this would be a solid pick and right around, probably could be available right around 21 when Kings are picking too.
Multiple mock drafts, I've seen him being taken at 21, not only for NHL.com. I think I saw him with Bob McKenzie right in that range. So, quite a few people taking it. Joe, I think his tape popped off a lot with his skill set. From what you saw and what you read, what do you think of Luchenko there?
Yeah, I like the player. He I don't like him as much as some of the others that we have talked about or perhaps will talk about. What I do like, again, going back to Scott Wheeler and some of the things that he ranks, he shows up in those top 5 to 7 or whatever on best skater, smartest player, and what was the other one? Well-rounded player. So, and the thing is, when you got a guy that's 5'11", 187, he's, to get to where he's going to go, you probably have to be and he's a centerman. So immediately not surprised to see he's one of the smartest players, not surprised to see he's one of the more well-rounded players, because you kind of have to be that. If you're not, he's not tiny, he's not like he's 5'7" here, but he's a tick maybe smaller. He's under 6 foot. So I don't know, like, he's a little smaller, I suppose, but I think this is a guy that could carve out, maybe one of those high floor guys that could carve out an NHL career, even if it's in the bottom 6 or a 4th line role, worst case, right? Like, he seems like one of these guys that is a high floor. I don't know how high the ceiling is on him, when it comes to some of his skill sets. When you're talking about guys like this, he's, again, really well-rounded, hardworking guy, and that's awesome. I want to take a bigger swing at 21. Player's fine. I like the player. Not going to lose sleep if they drafted him. Maybe he ends up being great, but not in my top upper echelon.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Trevor Lewis when he came out of juniors. That's the type of player I see in Luchenko. He's not going to be
right around
crazy.
The same pick, right?
Lewis not going to be a crazy high ceiling, but producing juniors, good teammate, going to do all the, like you said, well-rounded. That's the kind of player I see here. So I think it would be more of a safer pick. But I mean, even then, like, I still love the player, and I like I said, I think he's in my top 5 in terms of rankings. So yeah, would love the pick.
Yeah, I really like his on-ice intelligence, know-how, as been reported multiple times. You loved him in getting interviewed. He seems like a very well put together kid. Scored very high in athleticism in the combine in multiple aspects. So very good athlete. He understands the game on offense and the defensive side of the puck. What another excerpt from a scout here. He's got good instincts on the penalty kill. So we talked about etching and how prospects have to get playing time. They have to etch in playing time by being able to be good at other things. Everybody's a good scorer in juniors. How are you going to etch in playing time and being good on the penalty kill and being able to come in and earn that type of ice time? I really like that. Trapper coming here, a player coaches can trust, right? He's going to be known to be dependent in every situation. He can come in and play some offense. He can come in and play some defense. He's going to be able to earn ice time on the penalty kill. I think he's going to be a type of guy who is going to be available, all around in that aspect. And I really like this type of player from a confidence standpoint. Like you said, Joe, maybe a higher floor type player, more confidence that he'll break the NHL level, play 100, 200 games, maybe not the top 6, ceiling that you might see. Next guy here on our list is going to be Michael Hague, USHL Chicago Steel, center, 6'1", 190, shoots right. Oops, one too far there. So this type of player here for the Chicago Steel had 75 points in 54 games and was 4 points in 2 games for the playoffs. Got injured to start the season. Rankings, I've seen him anywhere between 15 to 25. So the thing here for him is, did his injury in the beginning of the year kind of drag down his draft stock? Because his second half is really where it exploded. I really like the player. He was in and out of my top 5. I'll leave it up to suspense whether he ends up. But Joe, what did you see from Michael Hague, and what do you really appreciate about his game here?
Honestly, I didn't include him in my top 5 only because I just genuinely don't think he's going to be here. I really think he's going to go before the Kings get a chance to get him. I think this is a good player. I think if he is slipping this far, I think that he could be someone that the Kings would be. Again, you mentioned a centerman. He's a really good skater. Scott Wheeler's got him ranked again among his best skaters. I think that if this, again, my type of center, bigger, not huge, but bigger centerman, kind of can drive play, controls the play, sees the ice really well, and a really good skater on top of that. And I think to be a 200-foot centerman in the NHL, you've got to be able to skate well. Because I think we've talked about some centers here, Randon, that their skating may or may not be a strong suit. And I think it's probably difficult to be a full 200-foot player in the NHL if that's not something that you're good at, and he is. So I do like the player. I honestly will be pretty surprised if he's there, I guess, is where I'm at with him.
Yeah, I totally agree with Joe. Like, if he makes it to 21, I'd probably put him number 1 in terms of my actual draft prospects for the Kings. But I've heard from scouts to say that after the 10th pick, you could get anybody. Anybody could be the same. And that same scout told me like picks 25 to 35 can be the same player. So I don't expect Age to get to 25, and I would be surprised if he even fell past 15. But I mean, like Joe talked about earlier, if you're looking for a player who's dynamic, I mean, this is him. This is a player. He's does everything with the puck on his stick. Probably one of the more flashier players in the first round. So this is something that the Kings probably are looking for in terms of centerman. And I think that what excites me too more is that he's going to be going to the University of Michigan next year, so you can see his development kind of take place a little bit further there in college.
It's something that I mentioned a few weeks ago. Personally, I tend to lean to centers and defensemen in the draft more often than not. And it's interesting. I heard on All the Kings Men podcast, he had Scott Wheeler on, and Wheeler seemed to think that, I don't know if he said this, like, it seemed like he was looking at this kind of like anecdotally, it seems, or I don't remember the exact context of what he said, but he's like, it seems that teams will think the same way. They'll draft centers and defensemen if only because they're more valuable in the market, centers and defensemen, right? So that's why I'd be surprised if a player at this position and his ability makes it to 21.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of mocks where he got to like 19, he got to like 20. And, what I talked about earlier with the over-under on the defenseman, teams really want defensemen.
Yeah.
And I think, so you might see some reaches on the blue line that force these down. I mean, on my top 5, I had him at number 1, but then I'm like, is he really going to be there at 21? Same thing with Nygaard. I really like Nygaard. I think he's a big body, but I'm seeing him as high as 10 now. You know what I mean? So like, is he really going to be there at that point? If either of those players are there at 21, it's smash, right? So, right. But I have seen Michael get to the 21 a little bit more often than the Nygaard pick, and so that's why I wanted to include him here, because everything in the draft happens sometimes. You could see a couple players fall or slip. You're looking at Cole Eiserman set the record for the United States Development Program for career goals, and he's dropping out of the top 10. People are saying close to 15 to 17 now because they think he's a selfish player. So all these are going around there. I think ultimately you're looking at a guy who's going to one of the top programs in the NCAA in Michigan. He's going to be able to fill out his frame. He'll probably be, by the time he's ready for the pros, he'll probably be 6'1", 210, right? So put on about 20 pounds of muscle in the next 2 years, be able to play with a top program, other top prospects. And if he didn't have that slow start, you might be looking at a top 12, 11 pick overall, And so I really like this guy here. I think that he was my number 1 and my top 5 for the picks. I took him out. Same thing with Nygaard, like I said, because I really have a gut feeling that he's going to be gone right around that 15 to 17 range, and we won't get the chance to see his name called. But I think it's a smash if he gets the 21 and Kings have a chance to draft him.
Well, I'm looking at Elite Prospects, the page for him right now, and they have the rankings for all the draft gurus or whatnot below. And Bob McKenzie has him ranked number 24, and Craig Button has him ranked number 21. So we'll see.
Hey, we'll see.
Scott Wheeler's at 15. So, well, I'll say it right now. He's not on my top 5 because I didn't think he'd be there, but he would be number 1 for me. I really like Michael Hayes and what he brings to the table. Big centerman, got skill, has a really good shot. He's detail oriented. I think he's a type of player that will thrive in the NCAA system because it's more practice than games. And so if it's detail oriented, working on your game, getting bigger, I think that's the type of environment that he could thrive in, and would be a smash pick at 21 for the Kings. Going to the next player here, we got Tariq Parasak, WHL for the Prince George Cougars. Center, 6 foot, 179, shoots right. He's been mocked to the Kings several times. Huge numbers in the WHL. 105 points in 68 games, 43 goals and 62 assists on a point per game player in the playoffs as well. I've seen him marked multiple times, especially with NHL.com at 21. This player, I can't really grasp my finger on whether I really love him or I'm not too sure. But Joe, what do you think about Tariq here?
Seems like a cerebral player, guy that makes others around him better. Seems like Wheeler talks about how he's not like a great skater, but he's fast, which is kind of maybe a little bit awkward. But for me, he seems like one of the smarter players in the draft. And again, I like that out of my centermen. If I'm talking about a center, I don't need like crazy skill from my centerman. I don't mind it if he's more of a thinker, if he's more of a distributor, if he's more of a, I'll help out my defenseman to get pucks out of my own zone. And it seems like Parasak fills that role, that he thinks the game really well at both ends of the ice. So I don't want to say he's a high floor guy. I wouldn't say that, because I think that maybe takes away that. I do think his ceiling is a little bit higher than who we talked about earlier. But I think a player with a brain like this, I'm always going to be somewhat interested in. Like I said earlier, I'm also going to want somebody, I want to take a little bit more of a shot from a skill level, I think, at this spot. But like we said, there's so many guys at this spot, and I'd be okay with a number of them, and I think I'd be okay with Parasak here. I got no qualms with that.
Yeah, I like the player. I think what I also like, he's a teammate of Cohen Zimmer too, so you got some established chemistry going on there. I'm not necessarily high on him. I feel like he might go later, maybe in 30, early second round. I don't know. Like, there's a lot to like with the player. I'm kind of with Joe here. I'm looking for a little bit more of a dynamic type player, even though I said it was pretty high on forget the name, the Trevor Lewis type player we were talking about earlier. But yeah, I didn't have him in my top 5. I just think he probably goes later in the first round. But like I said earlier, like after pick 10, it could just be it's a crapshoot. So could see him go earlier, could see him go later, but I like other players before I take a flyer on Parasak here.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where he ends up falling. I think in where does he have him falling to all the way? Scott Wheeler has him, in the second round. Is it second round?
He ranks him 20th, but he's got him going in the pick 44 to Pittsburgh.
Oh, geez.
And so he says his smarts and unique path and potential for growth. So to this end, like, if the Kings like a player like this, who is ranked kind of anywhere, right? That I'm very on board with them trading down here.
Yes.
move down, whether it's later in the first or get into the second. Totally fine with that, because I just think there's so many guys when you're talking about, at least in this particular draft and where the position that they're picking, that I think that can make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that was something that Yannetti said in his conversation with Jesse Cohen and Zach Dooley on the All the Kings Men interview. He said his goal going into this draft was to try to get a second and a third round pick. And if that's the case, like, yeah, I'm with you. Like, trade back, trade your first round pick back, try to get a second, maybe a third, for like a high end second and a third rounder for that. Accumulate as much prospects as you can, because I mean, if you can get a player like Parasak in the high end second round, great.
Sure.
Give me that.
Sure.
Sounds like a win to me. And then you get a third rounder on top of it.
Yeah, I think you look at the Kings are in an interesting position, and we had NHL Draft Pros come on. He said his tier is right at that 19 range, so the Kings can go up and get a guy. They can get some players to fall in that tier to them at 21, to where they can make a pick. Right? We talked about Connolly. We've talked about a couple other guys that we believe are top 15 guys. Michael Hage. And maybe they fall because some defensemen get propped up. There's picks all the time that leave you scratching your head. Players kind of take a dive, and you're able to get maybe a top 15 guy. And Yannetti talks about tiers. Maybe they get a guy in that upper tier, drop to them at 21 where they want to make that pick and they don't want to go back. But maybe all the guys are picked there, and that then the tier that they're sitting in at 21 has 8 guys in it. And they're like, okay, well, I can move back 5 spots, maybe get a second, or move back, So a Parasak seems like a move back type pick, where the Kings move back to maybe 25 or 26 and take a Tree Parasak and get a third rounder or a late second or something along those lines to add some NHL capital as and money in the bank, as he kind of calls it there. So really like the player. I think he's an opportunistic player, understands spacing very well, the way he skates. Obviously 43 goals in 68 games. He knows what he's doing around the net. What I like about him as a player, he's opportunistic when he scores. He's not afraid to go to the net. He gets a lot of these catches a lot of teams off balance with where he skates in the offense. I think he kind of reminds me a little bit more of a winger than maybe a centerman at the NHL level with that type of thing. So, but a player that I would be definitely okay with it might be a little bit high for me at 21, but definitely would be okay if we moved back and got him in the 25-31 range and got some capital out of it. So on to the next player here, Cole Hudson. Had to throw him in here because he was my darling. Coming to this thing, I know the rankings don't really have him. I've seen him high as 21 on one mock draft, but most people have him in that 25 to 40 range. And so he would definitely be a trade back candidate that I would be looking for. But 51 points in 51 games for the NTDP, and had 13 points in 7 games for the USA Under-18 World Junior Championships. Just like his brother Lane, I was all in on him, but a little bit bigger than his brother, 5'10", 159. His brother grew a little bit. He's going to grow in college. But he's what you're talking about, puck moving defenseman, very smart, not afraid to jump in the play, good skater, good offensive instincts. I really just like the way he plays the game, has the production from the U.S. Level, and would be a player that I'd be thrilled to take away if we traded back a little bit from 21 to get, or if we were able to score a mid-second round pick and kind of move up in that mid-second round and get him to drop that far. Love the player. I think 21's probably a little bit too rich for my blood for him at that range. But if we're able to do some trades, move some stuff around, and get him in that late first, early second, mid-second, I'd be thrilled for that type of draft pick.
Perfect trade back type of guy.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No. I was just like that good skating, offensive, left shot defenseman, organizational need. Like this is a real, and again, talking about take swings, take freaking swings in the draft. Screw the high floor guys, take swings. And this is a swing. This could be a miss, but I'd rather miss on a guy with a high level of talent, with a high ceiling, than miss on a guy who is maybe a bottom 6 ceiling anyways, right? Take your swings, and especially if you can trade back to do so, I would do it.
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't. Yeah, would be a perfect candidate for me if they traded back and got him high second round, even mid second round. I was told that the Kings are interested in a defenseman that's being taken in the second round, but Gabriel Eliasson, Swedish defenseman who's projected to be in the second round, that's who the Kings, I guess, have a lot of interest in. So if they do get in the second round, I'd be surprised if they go for Hudson and maybe they lean Eliasson. But I'm with you. Like, this screams upside all the way. I mean, we already kind of are kicking ourselves a little bit for not taking his brother a couple years ago over Jack Hughes in the second round. I don't want to say like I'd be okay with taking him at 21, but I'm not, I guess, opposed to it. Like, that's like, if you're taking a swing, I mean, you have players that, like, people are saying like 25 to 35 can be anybody. This could be that swing that you're looking for.
All right, next player here, Alphonse Frisch. So he's the defensive pairing for Leo Salin Wallenius, another left shot D for the Vaxo Lakers, 6'1", 196. Had a 33 points in 40 games for the junior 20s, and was able to make the Swedish World Series or World Junior Championship team 6 points in 7 games. So was paired quite often on the same pairing with Wallenius. Both have similar styles. I personally think that Alphonse is a little tier below what I saw from Wallenius on a consistent basis, but they have similar skill sets. What do you think, Joe?
So full disclosure, this is one guy I have not seen. So I'm going strictly off of scouting report, to be totally honest. But the first sentence from Scott Wheeler: smooth skating, strong in his feet and his edges, thrives in transition both ways, handles the puck comfortably and confidently on exits and pass pressure, walks the line beautifully. Do I need to say any more?
Joe is sold.
Like, again, I in all honesty, this is one guy I just did not get a chance to get to. But that's a really good first sentence if I'm reading about a defenseman.
It's so funny because like when the Kings, like when we started talking about draft stuff on Twitter or whatnot and in the podcast, like I've had like 3 or 4 of my followers like DM me like Friege, like they should draft Friege. So like this is a player that there's a lot of excitement around, and I think he's got a really good highlight tape too. So I'm with you, Randon. I'd probably go with Wallenius over Friege, but couldn't go wrong with either one in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm looking because a follower DM'd me as well, and I'm trying to figure out what. I forgot to shout him out here, but he and I was like, man, I don't see him really that high in the rankings. I'll watch him anyways, and then I watched him, and then I saw a couple more rankings. So he's a late first, early second type player, but puck moving defenseman. I'd be understanding of why they took him at 21. Kind of feel he's more that 25 to 31 range, but what's jumping 4 picks at that point, right? I mean, if you're going to get a puck moving defenseman with extremely good skating and edge work, it's a organizational need. It's a prospect pool need, and I just like a couple other players better at that point. But I would understand the pick, and I would be happy depending on who was there at 21 with Mr. Alphonse Frisch.
So I want to add, because Russ mentioned a name that the Kings are reportedly interested in, and it makes me want to bang my head against.
It makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it?
Gabriel Eliasson is, according to Scott Wheeler, the number 1 most physical player in the draft, which I immediately was like, okay. He also ranks 100 prospects. Now, listen, these are kids, so these rankings could be, Scott does incredible work. The amount of video and time he spends is, and not just Scott, a lot of these.
One of the best, if not the best.
Yeah. My personal favorite. So I understand that there may not be a big difference between the 97th ranked guy and the 160th ranked guy. I acknowledge this, okay? He's not in his top 100. He's not mocked in his top 2 rounds. So naturally, the Kings are interested in this guy according to Russell. I'm totally pegging this on Russell in the second round. It's just like, and again, maybe he's fine. Right?
It's funny though, because like when I heard that, I immediately went to look at the scouting report, and I'm reading it, and I'm like,
they don't get it.
This has Kings written all over it. Like, do you have a scouting report in front of you?
No, because he doesn't have. So I have I have Wheelers, so I can reference, because I made notes on some of these guys, but I like to go back and reference when we're talking about them, just in case if I mess something up, or look at make sure I got the right guy, get his size. He's not. Eliason's not even in his 100, so he's not on one of the tabs that I have open, Russ. So
Okay,
no, I don't have a scouting report.
I have Elite Prospects open. They have like little blurbs for each player. And let me read this to you. All right, let me read it. First of all, he's 6'7", and he weighs 207 pounds. He's a left shot defenseman. I mean,
what's his name? I'm looking it up right now.
Gabriel Eliasson.
Okay.
Look at how the Kings play, and the players they draft to play the left side of the defense. Everything they go after. This screams Kings interest, right? But I'll read his quick scouting report here, which actually I found quite amusing. A towering defenseman with decent skating ability and an endless lust for violence.
Where's Johnny Utah? If he's still in the chat, he's.
Doesn't that scream like Andres Englund, like right there?
So
that's exactly what he is.
Yeah, Cam Robinson of Elite Prospect says he's a 6'6" monster who, let's just say, isn't picky about when he takes his roughing penalties.
Proman doesn't have him in the top 129 either. So
we'll see.
Hey, they have a 4th round pick. Why not pick him there?
Maybe. I heard second round. Then I know the rankings. Like the consultant Bob McKenzie ranks him 55th.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All right. Well, we'll see what's going on. Here's the official rankings from us, our top 5. So Russell, go through your top 5 there, my man, and maybe give some blurbs why you put some players ahead of some others.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been shy about hiding my love for Solberg. I've been like, ever since I watched him, when I immediately saw him, he was projected to go in the second round. Now he's probably going to be like a top 15 pick. It's rocketing up this charge. I'd be surprised if he was there at 21, even though I still see people ranking him around there and mocking him around there. So Solberg, number 1. I have Leo Salim Wallinius, number 2. Lachenko, 3. Trevor Connolly, number 4. I'd probably rank him a little bit higher without the off-ice issues. And Boyver, number 5. You guys kind of sold me on Boyver, so I didn't want to leave him out of my rankings.
Oddly, we actually have like a lot of overlap. I don't know if I expected that, especially from Randon. Not going to add a whole lot. Sasha Boisvert is my number 1, and really, like, when I say that, like, I'm not trading up to get him, if that makes sense. Like, of the guys that we've talked about here, and we've talked about got to be close to 20 guys. These are the ones that I've settled on. Agree with Russ on Salim Wallenius and Stolberg. We're in lockstep there. Trevor Connolly, Scott Wheeler in his most recent, I think, ranking or mock had him to the Kings and says, listen, there's baggage, but he says, I know the Kings have done their due diligence on this kid. When you're talking about taking a swing, it's Trevor Connolly. Ridiculously talented. Another name I got on here at 5th that we have not talked about was Igor Surin.
I spelled that wrong. I apologize, Igor.
No, I think it's right.
I think it's EGOR, but
I think it is YE. I think
it's Yegor. Yeah.
I think you're good.
Tell us about Mr. Surin here, because I've seen that name mocked to the Kings a couple times actually.
Okay, so I haven't actually seen it. I haven't followed a ton of mocks, so I haven't really seen that. But he's in Russia playing a lot in the MHL. I think he got a cup of coffee in the KHL, but he's versatile. He plays all the positions. He skates well. he's young too. Like he's one of the younger players in the draft, and yet also playing in the MHL. So like, there's a lot to like there. He's a player that's, again, a decent size at 6'1". He's a centerman, high skill.
6'1", 191.
Yes, raw. Like the reason I have him there, because again, this is a guy that I think you take your swing. Like I think this would be a bit of a swing where there's a higher ceiling, could be a lower floor, but I'm willing to take that swing here. And he's got a little feistiness to his game. Like even so, talking about most physical, I mentioned Gabriel Eliasson, who's number 1. Solberg, by the way, is number 2. Surin is number 5. So he is skill. He is a good skater, but he also brings an edge to his game and a physicality to his game down the middle. And as I said, I prefer my size and my strength to come from my centerman rather than necessarily, it doesn't have to be a defenseman. So just an interesting name to add to the list of the bunch that we've talked about. A lot of them. We didn't really talk about him, so we just figured I'd throw him out there.
So mine, like I said, I left off Hage. I really think he would probably be my number 1 that might fall. Obviously, Branson Nygaard's probably going to be gone at that time. But going from, I like Wallenius 5. I really like the way Jet Lachenko thinks about the game, and I think his skill set has really high pop to it. I really think he could be a little bit higher floor than a lot of people think. Solberg, because I think he's kind of a unique player, and if the offensive side of the puck, the skating is there and his first pass is there. If the offensive side of the puck can kind of engage, this guy is a hitting monster. Like he loves to hit people, and he's good skating. He's good with the puck. So like you're getting a combination there, good size. So if he can develop the offensive side of the game, I really would appreciate it there from there. Trevor Connolly is the biggest swing that you could take. The reason I didn't put him 1 is because you do have the concerns. But Bovair for me just hits every single box. And so I really think that he is just kind of has a little bit of everything. He has the edginess. He has the skating. He's a two-way player. He's worn a letter. And so I just think that he has everything that the Kings would need. I also think that center is kind of a sneaky need for the prospect pool for the Kings. You look at PLD left. Kopitar's got 2 more years on his deal. Deneau's not going to be there. So what does this team look like in 2 years? They could need a second-line center, and I think Bovair, who is good on both sides of the puck and has more offensive side than people may think, that I think he could be a skinny or a sneaky, 2C, 1B type player for the Kings going forward.
Yeah, he just seems to. I feel like scouts gotta love this kid.
Well, that's a funny you say that, because as hockey royalty with all of our rankings, hockey royalty selects Sasha Bovair at pick 21. So the mock for Wheeler has him going 20, so right before us. But this is what he says here: Bovair is a player I've only ever heard good things about. Never heard one bad thing from a scout about him. And hockey folks, he's one who is viewed higher regard by teams than maybe public list. He's competitive. He has a pro-style profile already, who fits how maybe people have drafted in the past. He's well-rounded. He has higher upside than a lot of people give him credit for. I think that he could make that type of thing. He is also a martial artist, so he's not afraid to get in the muck. It's not easy to score 30 goals. He had 30 goals in the USHL. He had actually more than 35. I think it's hard to do as a center. He was relied upon. He wore a letter for the team. He was a first-round pick in the queue, so he chose to go to the USHL. He's going to be playing for North Dakota, so he's going to be able to fill out that frame because he is 6'2", 176, so plenty of room to bolster up. North Dakota has a very good program. I think you look at being able to fill out, he's going to the right place to do that. The intangibles, I think you hear nothing but intangibles from him. And I know that's a word that maybe cringes people when you think about other players on the team, but for him, he's dropped the gloves for his teammates. He's stuck up for them, including the playoffs and key moments. He's the type of guy that has a quick, accurate NHL level release already. Good things off the puck, above average skater, which he can get to even and better skater when he puts more weight in those legs and stamina. He develops that. If he develops that power game that comes with getting a little bit more size and has that very good grip and hands that he already has, I think that the sky is the limit with this kid. And in the face-off circle he can improve on, but he can definitely that can definitely happen with more size. Scott Wheeler says he's got middle six written over him with higher upside than that. And there was a lot of top 15 chatter about the way he was playing in the playoffs and towards the end of the year.
Love it.
So, yep, big fan. Big fan.
So, Hockey Royalty picks Sasha Bovair with the 21st pick, and I really think that he'd be an excellent pick, and I would be super stoked to have him at 21.
Welcome to LA, Sasha.
So, thank you guys for listening. I know we went well over the 2-hour mark, as always we do here. You know, you break open that tinfoil hat segment, and time ceases to.
Hey, blame the NHL, man. We got draft and free agency to get in a matter of days.
Well, we should thank actually our listeners who donated to those topics. So thank you again for donating to the pod. As always, you can get our gear here at Hockey Royalty. Let's see, t-shirts right now are still $30 for the Let Kev Be Kev. Size is small through XXL, and the $45 combo for the More and Kev t-shirts. DM NHL Russell on Twitter, and we accept payments mainly through Venmo, but Russell can make some things work if you want to get some gear from us. So appreciate that. Find all of our articles, including the one that Russell just wrote this morning, at hockeyroyalty.com. Follow us at hockey_royalty, Random Commando 24, NHL Russell, JW Paterino, and all your AHL news with Kopitar 48 HOF. Our wonderful sponsors here at the Hockey Podcast Network is DraftKings and Manscaped. Code THPN because smooth sack summer is upon us, boys, and get your Manscaped as soon as you possibly can. So thank you guys for joining us. Please hit that like button on the way out. Subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, because we got a hot summer coming in here, and we're ready to talk some hockey. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.